Oh my god. I almost tripped and fell and died. Got it. Okay, there you go. Also, I fixed it, so David, you shouldn't be getting, you know, exit out on everything you're trying to say. Damn. Also, David, you're first. I don't think you've ever been first, ever. It's normally like... Yo, I kind of, like, I got black pants. I got this. I do kind of have a color scheme today. Yeah. Also look like a biker. Yesterday I looked like a trucker. Today I look like a biker. I've also looked like a preschool teacher. And maybe a couple other things. The occasion was I was out with some friends. Shocking. I have friends. And oh my god, you like my jacket? Okay, I love this jacket. It's like a long sleeve jacket and then it goes down. And then did it just lag? Crying, screaming, crying, throwing up. Why did it lag? No. There we go, it's back. I know, lag is back. Yeah, so we're gonna go. So we're on chapter 681. Cammy said that I have to read, like, I don't know when. I'm assuming somebody will tell me when I have to read like 14 chapters together, but we only have like 20% of the book left and only I think like 60 chapters left, which is still a lot, but like not that much. So just let me know when I have to, yeah, dude, I guess so. Just let me know when I have to like put it all together. Okay. You're not, I fixed it. Shockingly, was able to fix it and put it all back together. Yeah. It also was exactly that. It was just for some reason on top chat, not all chat. So there you go. Okay, let's get into today. Let's start reading. Chapter 681, Indirect Answers. Being the main focus of attention, Derek didn't choke. He eagerly said, I've recently been in an exploration team led by Chief to Afternoon Town. It's a key gateway that leads to the giant king's court. It's a door that separates myth from reality. His opening perfectly garnered the interest of the Tarot Club members as they waited the rest of the account in different postures. Derek skipped through the unimportant experiences as they had during the journey, and he directly started his story after Afternoon Town. He first described the dead silence and darkness before the three-member team discovered an underground altar. He then described how he identified the names Aurora Boreas, Medici, and Sasri. And entered another side of the town without realizing it. There, he saw the titles such as Dark Angel and the words Rose Redemption. Having said that, he thanked Mr. Fool once again and for his help from the predicament. Then Derek simply introduced the monsters that transformed from their shadows before emphasizing the can't say the word, who was in constant penitence in the half-collapsed cathedral. He used his own words to describe what was said, mentioning that the words back. Oh, it's the word that means priest. I remember I was told last time. I'm just gonna start saying priest again. The priest suddenly self-destructed when he was about to say the name of the fourth king in the angels and burnt into a crisp in a transparent flame. Yeah, I remember, it's just priest. Another king of angels in the mood after Afternoon Town is really dark and scary. The priest penitence has a feel of prophet predicating a calamity. Oh, whoa. Audrey listened in relish as she had her interest about the blank line and unspeakable name piqued. At this moment, Derek turned his body and looked at the end of the bronze table, sincerely asking, Mr. Fool, who was it that tempted Dark Angel Sasri, Who does the fourth name refer to? Why can't it be said? Here it comes. Behind the gray fog, Klein smiled, nearly froze. He realized that he had hurriedly sent little son back to the real world was that he was afraid of facing such a question. Back then, he was worried that little son would inquire about Dark Angel Sasori, and now he was facing a question he didn't know the answer to. Thankfully, Magician never performed unprepared. After that day, Klein undoubtedly began to seriously consider how to answer such a question. Now, with great confidence, he landed his right palm on the armrest and said with a deep, meaningful glint in his eyes, "It's because it's concealed." He used his eyes and body language to hint at the Tarot Club members that concealment wasn't to be taken at a face level, and it had deeper, more suitable meaning. As for what it was, they had to figure out for themselves. Deities had deeper reasons to conceal certain matters. After finishing this series of actions, Klein couldn't help but feel penitent. He felt that his charlatan vibes were increasing. Meanwhile, he felt regret that the hermit's prying into his secrets was a result of temptation. This was because Mr. Fool would use his eyes and body language to provide additional hints. Therefore, all of the members would subconsciously observe his attitude. That's because I have no solutions. Without doing this, how am I supposed to continue the act? It's not like I'm a real evil god, Klein sighed silently. Secret. The name itself a secret. The content which Mr. Fool wished to point out there, which names are concealed, true gods at sequence 0, Alger instantly thought of many things. He came up with a theory by combining many of the matters which Little Sun had previously mentioned. When a name itself becomes concealed, it means that the matter involves a true god. Furthermore, it's very likely that have the Evernight goddess involved. It's because she's the mother of concealment. The extreme danger of the darkness in the forsaken land of God indirectly proves this point. Katlia came with an unconfirmed theory. Based on knowledge, she has the hint from Mr. Fool. Meanwhile, she almost certainly has the calamity that Priest was referring to was that cataclysm that ended the third epoch. The King of Angels, who was tempted, Afternoon Town, residents who fell from grace, the town being corrupted bit by bit, the black flower of calamity that blooms, all of that buried an epoch, creating a forsaken land of God. What a heavy sense of history. Katlia couldn't help but think poignantly. I think that's the word. While the Tarot Club members were in contemplation, Klein also began to analyze the reason for an empty name and the reason why it couldn't be said. Could it be the true name of a deity? A true god had tempted Dark Angel Sasori, and the fourth name representing the King of Angels also became a true god later. But it's not like I haven't said the true name of a deity before. Primordial Demoness Cheek is understood by many to be on the same level as the 7 deities. It's not like anything happened in the end. Perhaps it's something to do with the language used. The language of Lowen, Intis, and Faesak, or even ancient Faesak, do not possess the ability to stir the powers of nature. On the other hand, the commonly used Jotun in the city of Silver can. That priest likely used the similar language. I should later try to pronounce cheek using Jotun. Then I'll die on the spot and succeed in courting death. Forget it. Besides, having a blank name and an unspeakable name means different things. I have no idea why. At this moment, seeing how Little Sun was still in confused daze without understanding Mr. Fool's meaning hint, Alger volunteered to give an explanation. Of course he does. Of course he does. Alger always gives an explanation. And that's why we love Alger. When I got what question wrong on the quiz, I got so many wrong. Babes, we gotta be a little more specific. I'm pretty sure I got every single question wrong on the quiz. So the two names might separately represent 2 deities, so they cannot be said. Perhaps the true creator. Perhaps the true creator had tempted Dark Angel Sasori, leading to the fall of grace from the few kings of angels and the residents of Afternoon Town. This brought about the great calamity. It's why he has temple and statue in the forsaken land of God. The fourth name that corresponds to the King of Angels might have benefited greatly from the calamity and succeeded in advancing to becoming a true god. Is this the stream I have to read 14 chapters? Hold up. Because I asked at the beginning, because somebody said I had to read 14 chapters one stream. Is this it? Am I reading 14 chapters today? Okay. This is similar to my guess, but they can be confirmed. Katlia didn't supplement. She said she didn't believe their theories were facts. Well, hopefully it's not. If it is, I mean, lock in. I'm gonna go grab some water and an energy drink because we're gonna be here for a while. Audrey, Forrest, and Emlyn listened attentively as they couldn't help but feel poignant that the Tarot Club often made things appear especially high-end when discussing such matters. Things like the King of Angels, evil gods, and real gods, or ancient secrets, all depended on a single word. Is that so? I'll get it. Derek came to the realization as he earnestly thanked Mr. Fool once again. Just as he was about to turn around, he suddenly recalled... Okay, I can do that. He suddenly recalled something and worriedly asked, Mr. Fool, is the crux to leaving the Forsaken Land of God really in the Giant King's court? After all this time, he had really already accepted Mr. Hangman's take that the region where the City of Silver was located was known as the Forsaken Land of God. That's what I believe, but the problem is that I'm unable to confirm it. To not search for the sea and switch to exploring the Giant King's court was likely Shepherd Lovia's suggestion. This can partially verify my theory, but it cannot eliminate the possibility that it's a conspiracy. The fool Klein smiled, nearly froze again. His thoughts raced and quickly thought of a solution that didn't need him to give a direct answer without tarnishing Mr. Fool's reputation. He immediately gave a relaxed chuckle, turned his head at the hermit Catlia. Speaking of this matter, Bernadette already knows the method for entering the Forsaken Land of God. Catlia immediately recalled her vague memories of the dream and subconsciously looked at the end of the bronze table. It's that projection. Before she finished speaking, she suddenly realized that she was sizing up Mr. Fool again. She hurriedly closed her eyes and said, My eyes of mystery praying is instinctive. It can only be enhanced and not detective. I need to rely on mystical items to seal it. My hat? Why does it just say sports? Because I love all sports. Especially the gay ones. Let's go heated rivalry. You can conjure a pair of glasses. Yes, Mr. Fool. Catlia followed the instructions and conjured the pair of glasses. During this process, Klein stirred in a minute amount the power above the great fog infused into the pair. The glasses. By the time Catlia wore them, she discovered that her eye of mystery prayer had been sealed, and she had expected. It was only at this point that Forrest completely realized that Ma'am Hermit's eyes were extremely special. It had something to do with the prayer of mysteries, and it didn't need to be activated to use it. It's no wonder we didn't notice it. Ma'am Hermit was severely injured because of the attempt to pry into the mysteries of Mr. Fool. Audrey moved her lip in enlightenment, having one of her questions answered. As for Alger, who recalled the hermit had previously sized him up, now he had been wearing the clergy clothes of the Church of Storm. His face nearly darkened. Klein didn't wait for the members to calm down. He chuckled and replied to Catlia's previous question. It's that projection. The projection from the Giant King's court. So, it's the projection of the Giant King's court. Catlia muttered in pleasant surprise. Then her mind went adrift as she thought she likely also knows this answer. Derek spent a few seconds to digest the conversation between Ma'am Hermit and Mr. Fool, and he vaguely came to the realization. The key to entering the Forsaken Land of God had to do with the projection of the Giant King's court. Therefore, the crux to leaving the Forsaken Land of God is, in reality, in the Giant King's court. Derek's heart palpitated as he bowed his head in excitement. Thank you for your answer, Mr. Fool. Klein silently heaved a sigh of relief. He felt that such a situation was extremely draining on his brain. Alger kept his emotions in check as he looked around before looking to the hermit. Where's the projection of the Giant King's court? He didn't dare ask Mr. Fool, as the question about the Forsaken Land of God had previously been rejected. Catlia answered frankly, in the waters in the easternmost front of the Sonu Sea, in the dream of the night time there. I happen to wish to share with all of you what I encountered this time. Audrey and Forrest simultaneously showed their breathing as they waited excitedly for Ma'am Hermit to recount her encounters, which were bound to be fantastic. Chapter 682. Oh my god, I almost just deleted the whole thing, and I probably would have cried, because I don't want to have to deal with that. Seeking food. Food in quotations. So I'm wondering what kind of food we're gonna... Gabe saw Sunny, yep, and vanished. Well, you know what? At least he's always here. He's always somewhere around. The end of this chapter when we get to the bar. Thank you. Katlia controlled herself without looking at the world. Garamond, she said in a deep and slow voice, northeast from the Gargus archipelago, there's a safe sea route that allows one to enter those dangerous waters. She began to description of the deep abyss which separated the sea and the sun chariot, which could be viewed directly, the night which required sleeping, the terrifying ravings that could fill the entire sea, and the shadow of the giant king's court, which stood opposite the mountain peak in the dream world. During this process, she didn't mention Garamond Sparrow at all, deliberately avoiding any mention of him. As for the abnormalities that happened en route, she described them simply, such as a remnant aura of Earth Mother, which caused hair to grow rapidly. Towards the end, she placed her focus on the ruin with the sleeping corpse in the adventurer's sailboat, which had the words written in blood, Fountain of Unaging. This might mean that the Fountain of Unaging is in the ruins, and the corpse that produced such loud breathing is the keeper. Katlia mentioned in common theories in the future, but it didn't mean that it were heard. Fountain of Unaging, one of the 6 major treasures at the sea. Alger was tempted by what he had heard and considered the possibility of exploring those ruins after reaching Sequence 5. Audrey finished listening attentively as she shook her head slightly. I don't believe that the decisive meaning behind those words in blood mean the Fountain of Unaging is in those ruins. After a second's pause, she attempted to analyze the deceased's state of mind. A person who's about to die after being attacked by a monster wouldn't point out matters regarding the treasure. If he wished to warn companions or relatives who come looking for him, then he should have written that. It's dangerous here. Or, speaking of the source of danger, if he plans to tell passing ships that the Fountain of Unaging is there, then he lacks the motivation to do so for a living creature at death's doorstep, unless the conspiracy is hidden. In that matter, the conspiracy of enticing people to enter the ruins and to seek the Fountain of Unaging might be how he can be rescued. Yes, if I were in his shoes, I would think of desperately telling others, and there's treasure here. What's in it for me? Emlyn echoed. Only hatred, bone-deep hatred, will make me write something like that on the brink of death. Otherwise, I'd rather tell others how I should be buried or what kind of burial items I want. Last chapter should be 689, I think. Okay, I can do that. He tissed and shook his head. Klein nodded indiscernibly, controlling the world. He said hoarsely, the Fountain of Unaging is a scam. He used absolutely certain words without any additional words, and with significantly other possibilities. The Fountain of Unaging is a scam. Kalia looked at the world before retracting her gaze in thought. It seemed to corroborate with certain theories and guesses she had. Alger frowned, not that he didn't agree with the world's judgment, or that he had believed that Miss Justice and Mr. Moon's explanation were devoid of reason. Instead, he realized that he had completely failed to consider this possibility. To him, this was a mistake that shouldn't have been committed. After all these years, I'm still temporarily blinded by immense profit. He felt silent for a few seconds and sighed. After exchanging what everyone had seen and heard recently, everyone began to teach the sun, ancient Hermes, and they learned some mysticism from each other. Time quickly passed as the fool surveyed the area after everyone came to a stop. Let's end here for today. By your will. Audrey stood up immediately, curtsied her illusory dress, and the rest of the members said the same almost at the same time. Oh my god, Wiz, hi! What do you think you're doing in here? Coming in here, wishing me Happy New Year's, being all nice, after you were talking shit, talking smack behind my back. I have eyes and ears everywhere. These bitches in this chat are also messy, so they'll tell anybody anything. Also, I hope you had a wonderful holidays, Wiz. And Happy New Year's. Yeah, well, I did, okay? I did. As he watched the berry finger vanish before eyes, Klein wasn't in a rush to leave. He conjured the goat skin and fountain pen and wrote down the divination statement. Hey, you can bully me. You can slander me. But you don't come for my mods. That's a line you don't cross. Only I'm allowed to bully my mods, not you. I hope the advancements for Sequence 4. Putting down the fountain pen, Klein held a goat skin and leaned back. As he closed his eyes, he entered the cogitation state and began silently reciting the divination statement. After chanting it several times, he quickly fell asleep and entered the dream world. The gray, blurry sky cracked open. Then bully him on your own terms. I'm still beefing with you after what you said. The gray, blurry sky cracked open, and he saw a towering mountain tear through the clouds. At the mountaintop, there was a collapsed palace, whose walls were covered in weeds, moss, and slowly turned obvious holes. Inside the palace was a huge throne carved out of stone, and it was adored a dull gemstone and gold. It was mostly molted and damaged. It looked as though it had prepared for a human, as countless translucent maggots pushed densely together. They squirmed slowly as they kept growing. Around the throne was a raving that seemed to penetrate the long rivers of time and history. It was illusory and ethereal and constantly echoing. Hornigus flagrea, Hornigus flagrea, Hornigus flagrea. Bullseye? Leave my mama alone. She is. My mama's good looking. She's a very beautiful woman. You leave her alone. You skipped your stream and you defend him on the wayside. No, he did skip my stream. He is. Fortunately in the app. Okay. And thank you, David. That's my lawyer, everybody. I see the slander is starting off early and it is starting off strong. Okay. The moment the ravings entered the ear, Klein jolted awake and he frowned. It really is the main peak of the Hornicus mountain range. Furthermore, I can see and hear it more clearly than before. This made me recall Queen Mystic's Bernadette. I hate to say it, my dad can fight. I know that I'm only like 5'3", but my dad's like 6'1". He's tall, he's a big guy. Yeah, he unfortunately can. For you. So. Leave my mama alone. Leave my mama alone. No, because these motherfuckers found my family photos. I think I have. Hold up. Yeah. And yeah. My mama is a beautiful woman. I can see and hear more clearly than before. This made him recall Queen Mystic Bernadette. I know you saw the photos. You saw the photos of a 12 and 11-year-old Dara. Those were supposed to burn. Die. Go away. My mom. This made him recall Queen Mystic Bernadette prophetic words. Your fate lies on the main peak of the Hornicus mountain range. Are we going to the Hornicus mountain range? I've been getting edged by this range since like book 1. I'd really like to just, you know, get there. Well, you know what? People say I'm a carbon copy of my mom, so I'll take it. I'll take it. If you don't want to read a lot tomorrow. I feel like we'll see where we're at 689, and if we're like we'll see where we're at, and if there's like more to read, we'll read more. But if like we're done either way. Okay, hold up, where's that one person that said I was pretty yesterday? I need them back. Getting slandered left and right over here. It's my fate. It really makes me want to be rebellious and not go. I can deal with the not the asbestos, the absolutes. It depends. Klein sighed and conjured the 5 bounty notices. Yeah, unfortunately, Wiz. Unfortunately. Slandering you behind the end of stream. I know. Yeah, not Bunny. Bunny was really nice, and then they started slandering me, and then they joined the Discord, and they're probably gonna join in on the slander. But there was one other person who was like, "You're so pretty," and I said, "Thank you. If only other people saw it." But nobody ever does. I'm like a troll. Yeah. Conjured 5 bounty notices provided by Emlyn White. Combining the information he had, he used the methods of divination to find the locations of the primordial moon believers. Finally, due to the lack of information, he could only confirm 2 points. Gallus, Calvin, Windsor, Bering, and Argos are all in Backland. Dandy and Lara are in the Enmat Harbor and Prince Harbor, respectively, and this is as good as nothing. Klein shook his head and returned to the real world, recalling how he had already agreed to provide Little Sun with the notary potion formula within 3 days. He wore his coat and top hat and he prepared to head out to find a target. And done now because it's just the start. Okay, I can do that. I can do that. Recalling how he had already agreed to provide Little Sun with the notary potion formula within 3 days, he wore his coat, top hat, and prepared to head out to find a target. When he opened the door and came to the stairwell, he saw Anderson Hood walking up, twirling his deer hunting cane, or cape, with his hands while humming a folk song. This fellow is really good at recovering from setbacks. He was just taught a lesson by the demigod in the morning, and he was focused. What was I writing? And he was forced to apologize and agree to respect, but I don't see any signs of trauma from him anymore. It's no wonder he became a Sequence 5 powerhouse. Just in this state of mind alone makes it difficult for him to lose control. Klein looked at him, nodding slightly and agreeing. It's literally not. It's not, and it's not gonna get copyrighted because it's not copyright music, so that's okay. I checked because I'm smart. Sometimes. Maybe not all the time, but sometimes. It happened pretty smoothly, I see. Klein commented without much emotions involved. Anderson immediately laughed. That's right, Harsh, don't say that. That's right, it happened far smoother than I imagined. Those fellows who would have had rocks for brains were surprisingly friendly, polite, and efficient. I even suspected whether I'd become a blessed of luck, Lady Luck. There's no such deity. Klein recently shattered his fantasies. Why so serious? It's life, relaxing a little, relax a little. Anderson handed over the remaining 1,200 pounds. Accurately, I'm very clear about what happened. The gentleman doesn't want me to waste my time, so he secretly exhorted those people. Klein glanced at the cash, pressed down on it, and asked in passing, have you confirmed which pirates gave you the problem? He was asking about the prey that resulted in the manipulator's involvement. Yeah, I said once I get to 500 subs, I'll do a Fours cosplay. Because Fours is the best. David, I'm winning us points. David, I'm dragging us up from the bottom. There's no way for confirmation. Anderson said with a bitter smile, do you think I didn't confirm it ahead of time? Although I appeared nonchalant in front of you, I will investigate the praise. Background and situation ahead of time to avoid provoking someone. I can't afford to. Who knows? I can only blame it on my bad luck. This fellow is more careful than I thought. That's right. His previous sequence was called Conspirer. Klein thought in enlightenment before asking differently. Who deserves death in the most in this area? Anderson had asked aback before he chuckled. Does our crazy adventurer plan on beginning his hunting activities? Yes, he does. Yes, he does. However, you have to consider it well. I do not wish for you to be my partner when completing the demigod's mission. Don't worry, we're different. I'm a seer. I have all kinds of means to hide my tracks. I will not allow someone to come knocking at my door. Besides, that's a demigod of the spectator pathway. He's not good at divination or prophecies. Klein maintained his cold attitude and was unique to Gehrman and said, you don't have to bother. Anderson immediately gave a thumbs up. Your craziness is always worthy of praise. He thought for a moment and added, the person who deserves death the most is Molsona. Molsona? Yeah, from the Lowen's new party. He's one of the pirates' best friends. He has in his control some kind of plant that's similar to cannabis, which is highly addictive. I'm kidding, I don't actually even smoke. This helps him control many people in the Toscarda government and police departments. He's one of the most powerful mob bosses over here. He has committed many crimes, killed plenty of people, and basically did it with the help of pirates. On the surface, there's no apparent problem. He isn't a beyonder, but difficult in killing him is how troublesome it is. Yes, troublesome. He has 3 to 5 beyonders from different pirate crews providing him with protection. On the rooftops, outside the buildings, beneath the windows, everyone belongs to him. To finish him off, the only way is to forcefully storm in and kill a large number of people. Gehrman's specialty. I have the means to do it, but it's too troublesome. There's also a certain level of danger. You'll become a wanted criminal after that. So I didn't deal with him and only dealt with his safe at home. Safe, to talk about banditry in such a fresh way. Yes, I previously heard that the Toss Carter main industries are its plantations, economy and pirates, black market trading. It also has flourishing bar, brothel, and gambling industries. I never expected it to include new age drugs. Molsona is an ordinary person and not beyond her. Perfect. Creeping hunger happens to lack food. Klein nodded and indicated for Anderson to go deeper into detail. Evening in the Oak Tree Bar. The boxing match was about to unfold in the boxing ring. Many alcoholics surrounded with its mugs in hands. They were like sharks who caught a sense of blood as they placed their bets. They loudly yelled words such as "kill him." Music change. What are you guys yelling about in chat right now? Who's better? This is a business at the head of the Lowen's new party, Molsona. The unique thing about the boxing matches held here was that was that death was permitted. Molsona greatly enjoyed matches that resembled ancient wrestling competitions. He often came to watch a few matches. At that moment, he was seated on the second story overlooking the ring. Around him were several bodyguards. They were watching every direction, and among them were no lack of beyonders sent from the pirates he worked with. As well as experienced adventurers he hired with large sums of money. These people either had their backs or sides facing Molsona as they surrounded him, and they prevented anyone from approaching him. Revolvers, rifles, and hunting rifles were all aimed outside, leaving the masses intimidated. After confirming the situation, Klein pressed down on his top hat, entered the bar, and saw Molsona sucking on a cigar. The mob boss had a very discernible face, be it his brandy nose and thin brows. They were all very unique. Klein attracted his gaze and first went to the bar to get his cup of local malt beer worth 4 pence. Then he made his way to the railing beneath the second floor. Although he wasn't directly under Molsona, as it was heavily guarded, he was already not very far from him. "I'm within 5 meters. Klein silently muttered to himself, raised his cup of beer, and looked at the boxing ring. Let's go. Honestly, this is where I want to be. This seems like a fun place. Does Donitz come back? I'm just reading the title. Does he come back? If so, I mean, it might be like Anderson Hood or someone. I just think it would be so funny if Donitz was just trying to enjoy a nice night and all of a sudden he looks over and then there's Gehrman Sparrow and he's like, "Aw, shit, here we go again." Oh, no. Okay, well, I got excited for nothing then. Thanks so much. I didn't care. Chapter 683. So you were here as well. Black spirit bar threads that stemmed from the different life forms appeared in Klein's vision, but he didn't immediately extend his spirituality to attempt to control them. After distinguishing and confirming which spirit body threads belonged to Molsona, he gulped a mouthful of malt beer and began to focus on the boxing match in the ring, just like a real member of the audience. The two boxers had their tops bare and didn't wear any protective gear. They fought all out, constantly clashing with each other as the fists met flesh, and the situation quickly escalated to a fever. Many of the alcoholic gamblers had adrenaline pumping through them as they shouted for the boxers. They supported, passionately yelling, "Kill him." Finish that son of a bitch. On the second floor, Mulsanna also forgot the cigar in his hand as he fixated on the ring below. His hands clenched tightly into a fist. Apart from those who would have their backs facing him because they were keeping tabs on suspicious people or watching the important regions, such as the rooftop or the area beneath, the people around him couldn't help but have their eyes peeled on the intense boxing match. Klein raised his hand again, gulping a mouthful of beer as though he was out of breath from the tense atmosphere. At this time, his spirituality silently extended and grabbed onto the illusory black thread corresponding to Mulsanna. Bye, David. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. The brandy-nosed Mulsanna was just about to pump his fist a little as he thought he was in the ring himself when he suddenly found his brain go numb. He felt the surroundings abruptly turn odd, as though several panes of glasses were between him and them. Mulsanna immediately discovered that his thoughts had clearly slowed down and the thoughts of all the parts in his brain had suddenly rusted. As the target was only an ordinary person whose spirit body was far inferior to the Beyonders, Klein took less than 20 seconds to achieve initial control over him. 7 seconds. All it took was 7 seconds. No. But you can't say hi. Oh no, something's wrong is happening. It's likely a Beyonder with relatively special powers. Mulsanna, who often interacted with pirates, was no stranger to the mysterious world. It was why he spent large sums of money to hire Beyonders to protect him. If he hadn't long destroyed his body with sex and alcohol, making his psyche relatively weak and his condition terrible, giving him a high chance of losing control, if he were to consume a potion, he would have also wished to obtain supernatural powers himself. At that moment, as his thoughts were slowing down and due to the lack of experience, Mulsanna spent more than 10 seconds to figure out what he was under assault. He immediately reached out his arms and opened his mouth in an attempt to shout for help. However, his actions were extremely slow, and his voice was weak. With a number of bodyguards around him, engrossed in the enticing and nerve-wracking boxing match, and the audience roaring in every increase. Crescendo, as well as the guards along the perimeter, putting their attention on any possible attack locations to protect their employer, his obvious abnormality ended up being neglected. When the climax of the match received a temporary respite, the number of bodyguards and subordinates turned to look back at their boss, and they saw that his eyes appeared somewhat in a daze. His hands didn't seem to be in the right place, as if he was still caught up in the match, anxiously awaiting the final result. The corners of the mob boss' eyes had tears welling up as he tried hard to release his fingers and drop the cigar to distract the attention of his subordinates, but he discovered that in despair that his line of thought was becoming highly impeded and stiff. Even a simple action needed more than a minute to complete, and his fingers were even resisting his will. The burning cigar finally fell to the ground as Mulsanna's tears flowed down his neck across his cheek. A few bodyguards discovered that there were just about to ask their boss if it was something in the match was too exciting, when Mulsanna suddenly bent down. As he wiped his face and picked up a cigar, "That was an excellent match. Give the victor more money." Mulsanna flicked the cigar, put up his collar as he grinned happily. He didn't say exactly how much he'd be giving, as Klein didn't know the market rates. All he could do was give a vague comment. Yes, Mulsanna of Lowen New Party had already become his marionette. As the Moss Bob was only an ordinary person, and his spirit body was even weaker than most healthy humans, all it took was 2 minutes and 15 seconds. If that needed any longer, he would have had to divert his attention to create an illusory, to create some chaos, making the bodyguards place their attention on protecting Mulsanna and not being able to discover his abnormality in time. Kill him. Kill him. Did I say Moss Bob? Okay, here's the thing. I think I would do the seer pathway just because. Okay, also, can we talk about how all of Klein's abilities in the seer pathway really fall under like Machiavellianism, or is that what it is? Yeah, I'm pretty sure they fall under Machiavellianism, and like this is just like a clear look at it. And like Klein's whole thing is kind of that, which is very interesting. Like you just kind of see him collecting more and more traits of like that, especially like the dark triad of like psychopathy and other stuff, but like mainly Machiavellianism, which is really cool. The show to the audience suddenly turned in uniform as the match in the ring came to the end. Mulsanna also allowed his body to continue watching the match. When the boxer collapsed to the ground unconsciously, Mulsanna took a swig of a cigar and said, "To the lounge. I want to take a break." "Yes, boss." His bodyguards and subordinates immediately surrounded him. escorting him to the corridor on the second floor. He helped him open the door into the lounge. After instructing his guards and guards different critical spots and to not disturb him, Mulsanna placed around and opened a safe. He found documents involving all kinds of new drugs and selected the most important ones. Following that, he placed his documents and the address he cut from the newspaper, as well as a total of 758 pounds in cash into a briefcase. With a creak, it opened the door, called for a subordinate. Throw the big bag under the 3rd Street lamp around the alley. Yes, boss. The subordinate didn't inquire why. This was a rule. After closing the door again, Mulsanna found 3 candle items and used his pen and paper to carefully draw the corresponding symbol of the Fool. A half pupilless eye, which represented concealment, and the controlled lines, which represented change. Then this mob boss, who had become a marionette, lit the candles, used cologne, and represented essential oil and extract, and solemnly held his bestowment ritual. He softly chanted the Fool's honorific name. He used ancient Hermes, which was originally he didn't know, to recite the corresponding incantation. Following that, he picked up the item with spirituality and left it fused into the wind, constructing an illusory door with the transformed candlelight. If he could find any items of spirituality, Klein had planned on using Mulsanna's blood. The human body was an item of spirituality began with it. It was in the washroom on the 1st floor. Klein took his opportunity to taking 4 steps counterclockwise, going above the gray fog. He didn't use the Black Emperor card, and instead he directly stirred some of the powers in mysterious space, combining all of the paper figurine before throwing it through the bestowed door. The pitch blackness immediately transformed into an angel with 12 pairs of wings. He flew through the illusory, mysterious door, passing through the pitch black depths and the void, and arriving where Mulsanna was. This was to disrupt any subsequent investigations via divination, prophecy, or other beyonder powers. Right on the heels of that, Klein picked up Creeping Hunger and threw it into the ritual door. Creeping Hunger arrived in the real world thanks to the bestowment ritual, and it arrived right in front of Mulsanna. Having not eaten in a long time, it immediately became restless. I was at the bar finding Anderson, and he really didn't. Okay. At this moment, Klein, who had returned to the washroom controlled by frozen Mulsanna, had the distance of dozens of meters away, immediately closed his mouth, picked up the glove on the altar, a cracked window in the middle of the glove, as 2 rows of illusory white and eerie teeth were revealed. The sense of the marionette had obtained quickly weakened, and the discernibly severed his control. The slight backlash made his mind spin, but it didn't take long for him to recover. Then he thought nothing had happened. He left the washroom, returned to the bar counter, and continued drinking the malt beer he didn't finish earlier. At the same time, he found the rat on the 2nd floor through the use of the spirit body threads, and he had made become his marionettist in less than 2 minutes. The rat began searching for a tunnel path to the rather awkward, unfamiliar motions, and it took quite some time before entering Mulsanna's lounge through the hole hidden in the bookshelf. At this time, the thin glove that resembled human skin lay silently on the ground as there was nothing left. Behind Mulsanna, not even his clothes, the rat climbed onto the table, a bit in the paper and symbol corresponding to the Fool. Placing it close to the burning candle, the paper quickly ignited and burned into ash. After extinguishing the 3 candles and returning them to their original location, the rat came behind Creeping Hunger and bit into it. Then it returned via its original path and left Mulsanna's lounge. It stealthily ran into the way of the balcony facing the outside of the 2nd story, and it silently climbed down. On the 1st story where the bar counter was, Klein finished drinking his last mouthful of beer, put the cup down, and slowly stood up. He pressed down on his top hat, stiffed his hands into the black double-breasted frock coat, and walked past the alcoholics, gamblers without any hassle, and came to the streets. Following the light of the street lamp, he entered the alley at a normal pace. While putting out the paper figurine and lighting it with a flick, he picked up the briefcase thrown under the 3rd street lamp. At this moment, the gray rat came with thin human skin glove and its mouth out of the shadows. Klein bent back with a deadpan expression once again and picked up Creeping Hunger. Then the gray rat left on its own, climbing to the rubbish chute, lying there until it lost his breath. With the night about to fall and the street lamp illuminated Klein as he stood there, spreading his fingers in the unperturbed manner while wearing Creeping Hunger on his left hand. After searching his finger joints and getting used to the glove, he carried the briefcase following his vibrant and lively oak tree bar before vanishing at the crossroads. He took out the address, slipped his stamps and the briefcase, and left only for the important documents. Passing them on to it, then he placed it in the mailbox corner of the street. Finally, Klein changed back into Garamond's Barrel, took the rental carriage, and headed for another bar around the pier. It was at this bar provided by Anderson that had relatively more pirates. Upon entering the bar, Klein swept his gaze and took in the interior. Suddenly, he saw a familiar figure. Do I change the song now? Because I think it was a... Yes. Thanks. Also, this song, kind of loved it. It was a vibe. That whole sequence was a vibe. That was the perfect murder. I loved everything about it. Really loved the vibe and the energy and just his whole thing that he did there. Oh, and now we're here. So let's see what happens. The figure had a medium-sized build and his lips were purple. His brown eyes had an immense maleficence that left one drained. He was none other than the second mate of King of Immortality, Agalito, Slaughter Kirches, and the bounty of 9,500 pounds. I was really hoping, here's the thing. I'm excited to see what happens. However, I was kind of really hoping that it was gonna be Donnets, because I thought that would be fun, but I guess we'll do this instead. Clearly, after escaping via the exit of the dangerous waters, the death announcer had arrived at the nearly Torscat Island in search of replenishments. So, you are here as well. The corners of Klein's mouth curled up slightly, discovering in a chance encounter that the devil, who couldn't be more suitable for hunting, just as he generated that ill intent, Kurt just sized him up and turned his head to the entrance of the bar. Klein didn't hesitate to grab a beer at the table beside him and threw it over. Right on the heels of that, he drew his revolver and coldly aimed. Bang. Let's go. He always has to go like, you know, it's kind of just shoot first, questions later, and I love that for him. And you know what? Here's the thing. I know you guys don't believe me, but I think I can fix him. And I probably could. He would change for me. And then I would be like, hey, I don't want you to change for me. I like you just the way you are. Courage has only half turned his body. The cup of beer hit on the round table beside him, smashing into pieces. Amidst the gunfire, he didn't attempt to dodge, as though he had instinctively seen through the illusion. It was as though he had spring installed in him as he bounced to the forefront amongst the gamblers and alcoholics who were crouched down or scattered. His gaze was locked onto the cold adventurer, wearing a suit by the door. Garamond Sparrow, Kurt's pupils constricted as he opened his mouth and chanted the language of foulness and steamed from the abyss. At this moment, Klein pulled the trigger, and the pale golden bullet that appeared to scoop out of boiling hot water shot out, going straight for the slaughterer, who had a bounty of 9,500 pounds. However, all Curtis did was gently lift his right hand and spread his fingers to produce a light blue flame in his palm. Then he grabbed the bullet in an unimaginable manner. The bullet entered a cage as the light blue flame solidified. Following that, the bullet emitted sunlight, just enough to neutralize everything. Two figures stood up beside Kirches. One of them was a short-haired woman wielding dual pistols. The other was a boorish man in boxing gloves. Kirches didn't come to the torturer's pier in search of supplies alone, or it should be said that he definitely had partners he knew here. 3 Beyonders. R.I.P. my boy Klein. He called me Godspeed. Gurges might even be a sequence 5. At that moment, Klein nearly blurted something out along the lines of, "Sorry, my bad." One couldn't make any preparations when attacking a devil, relying on complete chance. Furthermore, there could be any hesitation. Otherwise, the devil would immediately detect the ill intent and danger. However, under such situations, it was truly hard to tell who held the advantage in such a situation. Klein didn't hesitate and turned around while holding his revolver. Then he agilely dashed for the staircase leading to the bar's second story amidst the crowd and above the crouching alcoholics. Just as he dashed in, a light blue fireball smashed into the side of the staircase before instantly exploding. Boom. A tiny part of the bottom of the staircase collapsed as the bar began to tremble. The strong smell of sulfur spread. Kirches and his 2 companions didn't delay as they jumped across the first few steps of the staircase in fervent pursuit of Garamond Sparrow. Tap, tap, tap. Klein ran for the second story, and midway he quickly began his examination of the corresponding spirit body threads. This allowed him to easily find an empty room without any humans. He turned around, took a step, and was about to enter the door before jumping off the window to escape from the bar. At that moment, Curtis and his two companions chased him up the second story, and upon seeing the scene, they tactically split up. The former continued to pursuit, while the latter entered the rooms at the same side in a bid to head down and intercept Gehrman. And Klein was waiting precisely for this opportunity. He suddenly half-turned his body and left back glove hand grabbed in the air. The woman with the dual pistol and the man in the boxing gloves continued their actions without detecting any abnormalities. They rushed into the other rooms, jumped off the windows, and went far without returning. The goal of actions of separate and intercept. He allowed Klein to use the Baron of Corruption's distortion to change it to separate and take action alone. This wouldn't last very long, but it was enough time for Klein to fight Kirch's one-on-one for a brief moment. Having complete distortion, he fell to the ground, rolling inside the building and avoiding the blue light. Fireball with Kirch's kept shooting out. Amidst his incessant booming, the building where the bar originally was wavered as though it had experienced an earthquake. Damn. Right on the heels of that, Kirch's rapidly lunged forward, entering a rather vast room. Seeing Gehrman Sparrow adaptedly somersault and jumping without fighting him head-on, while also controlling his motions very well. Whenever they talk about, somersaulting, I think of, Dark Souls or Bloodborne or Elden Ring, when you were, fighting a boss, and then to get away from everything, you, somersault because you're about to die. And that's what I would normally do, because I was dying every single time. Upon his mouth and use the unique language of foulness to say the word slow. The entire room and all the objects in tent seemed to calm down. Klein somersaulted action towards Sully significantly and weren't as smooth as before. Gurgis didn't hesitate and lock onto the target as he followed up with another word of the devil language, die. Klein's figure instantly froze as he stood rooted on the spot and gradually turned faint and thin, becoming a paper figurine filled with spotted red rust. At the same time, he surfaced the side of the door, wearing a half-top hat and double black-breasted frock coat suit. He reached out the black glove hand, grabbed the handle, and shut the door in collapsing room with a pull. The din outside vanished, and the room seemed to stand out alone, becoming a firm cage. Upon seeing this, Gurgis' body swelled up in his clothes and tore. He instantly transformed into a behemoth, nearly 3 meters tall. His skin appeared dark, but it wasn't a dark black and sinister. Goat horns filled with countless mysterious patterns grew on his head as his pair of black wings on his eyes spread open. Swirling around him, there were light blue flames that emanated a strong smell of sulfur. Light blue fireballs shot out in unison, blanketing the region around the door. At the same time, the redness in Kirch's eyes boomed as he said with an extremely corruptive words that the devil, corruption. This was also an area effective attack. The light blue in his eyes filled up as Klein clenched his left hand, which wore a sinister and noble glove, and quickly drew a half twist. I am so excited for him to kill this guy. The fireballs immediately lost their trajectories and acted chaotically as though in a random motion. They smashed into the ceiling, the door, the ground, flew backward, discourages immediately the booming sounds of the room undulated. The seal creature created by the power of the distortion suffered intense blow as it trembled, but it didn't show any signs of damage. The light blue flame soared into the sky as the smell of sulfur spread. Klein's body suddenly bent down as his body was covered in a layer of clearly sticky black liquid. His figure exploded, turning into a torn piece of paper and corrupted black fog. Immediately following that, he surfaced on the other side, his skin in a clear dark shade. His clothes were torn from the explosion force and his flames from the abyss. Corruption, which had slash damage, was useful against the paper figurine substitute to a certain extent, inflicting damage from a certain degree via an unavoidable influence. And the aftermath of the explosion wasn't within Klein's control. Similarly, it dealt damage to him. However, upon the first encounter, Klein had given Kirch's a cup of beer, completing the bribe. Therefore, attack and control effects directed him were greatly negated. Kirch's clearly didn't expect the minor influence that corruption had dealt to Gehrman Sparrow. Just as he pulled out a long blade formed entirely of flames, and before he could unleash the speed and strength in a fervent attack, he saw an opponent's left-hand glove transform as though it was made of gold. 2 blinding streaks of lightning tore out of Klein's eyes, psychic piercing. Curtis instantly let out a tragic cry as he fell through the 100 bottles of holy water that had been infused into his mind. He was rich in actual combat experience and, knowing that he had been struck by psychic attack, knew that he would subsequently suffer a series of relentless attacks. Hence, he instinctively transformed into pitch black liquid and began spreading across the floor. The liquid appeared to be the coalescence of the darkness and evilest desires of a person's heart as the liquid spread across the room towards Garin Sparrow, as though it would corrupt everything. This state is truly perfect. In a battle encounter, either party would suffer the problem of not being sufficiently prepared. Thankfully, I've always remembered this suspect desired apostle I encountered, and I've completely held back all desire and emotion. Klein didn't dodge as the glove on his left hand rapidly bloomed in the clear sunlight. He spread out his arms, allowing a pillar of holy light that had golden flames swirling around it descend from the sky. It illuminated every corner and every shadow of the room. This column of light struck the richest part of the pitch-black liquid, and it radiated outwards of a rippling matter. Amidst the bright and holy light, the pitch-black liquid quickly evaporated, mostly vanished. Curtis hurriedly materialized back into his body and reformed near the window. He still maintained his state of 3-meter-tall devil. He was as calm as always, but he could hardly hold back his intense bloodlust and desire to kill. The present him was already rather weak. He didn't dare to circle around Garin Sparrow as he waited for him to show his emotion so as to control his desire. He ignited the 2 mysterious goat horns in his head in an attempt to forcefully attack his enemy psyche, including emotional and certain degree of unavoidable matter. Once he had any desire or emotion, the situation would be in the desire apostle's control. At that moment, Curtis' head suddenly turned numb, causing him to nearly lose his thoughts he previously had. After both parties entered a range of 5 meters, the reason why Klein remained in a passive state, using paper figurine substitute in the Baron of Corruption's distortion powers to barely put up a fight and stall for time, was to divert attention in order to control Curtis' spirit body threads. With this strength of a Sequence 5 spirit body, it wasn't easy to obtain the internal control over Slaughterer to begin with. However, with the cup of beer bribe, it reduced Curtis' defenses and resilience. After that, this desire apostle suffered a psychic piercing and was thoroughly purified once the light purification as a result. He had become rather weak. Therefore, even though Klein was using his other powers, he still took 15 seconds to obtain initial control over Curtis. The intense battle in the room instantly turned quiet, although Curtis thought. I'm saying the name how I'm saying the name. You can hate me in the chat. Thoughts turned slow. He still had the ability to complete certain actions. He could still forcefully resist the control that stemmed from the depths of his spirit body. The bloodshot colors in his eyes converged as his eyes reflected Garin Sparrow's figure. And curled goat horns on his head began to burn intensely as hatred, greed, lust, wrath, and other emotions that desires began to spread outwards in the corporal manner. Oh my god, that's so smart. That's so smart. Because I just realized, okay, I'm going to say it after. Klein entered a half-cogitation state and calmly focused on deepening his control, hoping to quickly make Curtis lose all means of resistance. Chapter 685. I just realized why the devil pathway gets, like, that whole thing is because it plays off the 7 deadly sins. That's so cool. Oh my god. Dara has reading comprehension. Shocker. Not really. I'm actually very smart. Just never learned how to spell. Chapter 685, from the delay to disconnection. In the room that had been reduced to shambles. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, because it's the devil pathway, and that's why they get that, because it plays on the 7 deadly sins, because the devil is to do, and, like, has to do with that. Yeah, it just kind of all connects. I just thought it was smart. I just picked up on it. Whose top had fallen to the side and the clothes had become tattered. Was about 4 meters away from Curtis, who was behemoth with bat wings. The situation was so quiet, as though the puppet show was already being played. See, that's what I'm saying, is, like, I'm gonna look it up after. I'm gonna give you the actual definition of it, but like that's literally his whole pathway. And I wanna meet Cuttlefish because I wanna ask him if that was his inspiration for it. In fact, Klein still had the means to do something. Back when Marionettis Rosago forcefully controlled both him and Sharon, he could resist the Wrath's possession and use flame controlling to summon a flame to destroy the shadow pulled in by Sharon. If he hadn't made its serious mistake by targeting the Sequence 5 Wraith, Rosago could have divert his attention to killing Klein, sniffing out any chance of using the language of foulness charm. Although Klein was definitely inferior to him, there was only one why am I putting the M first? Enemy. Of course, there wasn't really much he could do. Under the premise of not losing control over Kerches, he could move, but he couldn't do it too harshly or quickly. He could use Beyonder powers, which didn't extend too much of his spirituality, but he couldn't divert his attention to power of mystical items he carried, or use action that required too much movement, like drawing a gun. And when the target was controlled by certain extent, several attacks could nudge or simulate the target, allowing them to resist the control of their spirit body threads to the greater extent and even show signs of escaping from his control. Therefore, Klein had to wait. At any moment, his heart rate suddenly sped up, and as an uncontrollable sense of horror and anxiety surfaced in his mind, he couldn't help but suspect that Kerch's companions, who had their intentions affected by the distortion, were about to return. No good. My emotions had been stirred. Klein was first taken aback, and he tried to use causitation to forcefully calm his agitated heart. He has emotional stirrings. A chance. Kerches was delighted as his slow thought flashed through his mind. Then, using his Beyonder powers, he attempted to magnify Gammon Sparrow's horror and anxiety, planting an emotional seed in him. No. As long as he succeeded, all he needed to complete trigger it, maiming his opponent, making him unable to influence him further. No, how can it be infected? His emotional strings have disappeared. Yes. Kerch's bloodshot eyes concentrated slowly as it was gradually filled with shock, alarm, and anger. Klein, who... no, I won't ask it. The Desire Apostle, who had a chance to counterattack, discovered that nothing had happened after completely calming himself down. The curled goat horns on Kerch's head were ignited, but he didn't attempt to use his emotional stirrings. Moments after having this thought, Klein roughly understood the situation. It wasn't that Kerch's didn't wish to control his horror and anxiety, but it was that he had failed. Because I'm wondering if, they also have to watch their emotions. From the moment he sensed the emotional stirrings, he had taken a few steps to digest the situation before using 2 to 3 seconds to make his decision. Finally, he spent even more time organizing his thoughts before channeling the corresponding Beyonder powers. All that took him at least 10 seconds to complete. Klein took a total of 3 to 4 seconds to calm his mind after detecting the problem. Therefore, Kerch's Beyonder powers naturally failed to be effective against an enemy who was in normal condition. To simply put it, the delay was too long. Under such situations, don't try to fiddle around with highly intricate matters. Klein lampooned before suppressing his sense of schadenfreude. After another 10 seconds, Kerches finally understood the source of the problem. He no longer considered targeting desires and emotions, and instead, while flapping the bat wings on his back in great difficulty, he relied on the devil's powerful body and spirit body to resist control stemming from the spirit body threads. He tried to make a swirling blue flame slowly coagulate on the fireball. Klein could almost foresee fireballs bombarding him, hence he didn't hesitate to split off some of the spirituality, snapping his fingers, using his right thumb and the middle finger. The light blue flames suddenly soared before they truly took off the collapsed completely. They were like fireworks booming behind Kerches. Magician flame controlling. Kerches continued struggling, but his actions became even slower as he resembled the rusting puppet. As for Klein, he casually moved his feet and dodged the devil lunges. Kerches had lunged with all his strength. 3 seconds. 2 seconds. 1 second. Klein suddenly stopped, and his eyes locked onto Kerches' head, which had lost all curved goat horns. At that moment, he still needed 2.5 minutes from controlling the Desire Apostle and turn him into his Marionettis. But Klein didn't have such plans. He never had such plans in the first place. It only took too much time, allowing Kerches' companions to rush back in time. Klein only had one ultimate goal. It was to control Kerches to a certain extent, so that attacks with a certain limit would help him escape his predicament. The bloodshot eyes, grimacing expressions, and the sharp teeth with drooling saliva reflected in Klein's eyes. He opened his mouth and said with a word, "Bang!" An air bullet of a sequence 5. That was already comparable to the bullet shot from a steam rifle. Bang. The air bullet accurately hit Kirch's forehead, causing him to throw up his head, yanking the spirit body threads. And in between his brows, a bloody hole that wasn't too deep had appeared. It wasn't a mortal blow to a devil, a desire apostle. Their bodies seemed to be cloaked with thick and hard armor. Their bodies and flesh had extremely elasticity and defensive strength. Bam, bam, bam. Klein kept creating air bullets while making gunshot sounds, striking Kirch's forehead again and again, slowly leaving it a continuous mess. At the same time, he stably controlled the spirit body threads to prevent him from using his feedback and weaken his influence. Kirch let out an angry, stuttering roar as he tried moving forward a bit to counter, but Klein was a lot more agile than him. At his plan to liquefy undoubtedly failed because of his control of the spirit body threads. Another air bullet struck Kirch's, completely shattering his forehead, penetrating his brain. Bang, bang, bang. The subsequent bullets flew in, one bullet after another. Kirch's skull was finally sent flying, and black crevices filled his brain. At the moment, it was a complete mess. The aura of this slaughtered worth 9,500 pounds quickly dissipated, but he didn't close his eyes. He had already lost them. Oh my god, Klein! Bit by bit, he collapsed on the ground slowly as Klein walked over and extended his left hand. Two blood-red eyes split open in the middle of the... I shouldn't be, smiling as I'm reading this, but I'm like... The cold and eerie wind appeared in the slaughtered Kirch's spirit body, as well as his black fog-like Beyonder characteristic shot outwards. Creeping hunger emits screams before fixing itself onto the blank figure. Soon after, the glove turned black once again, but this time it was profound and pure, resembling countless squirming dots of the same color formed one layer after another. Klein sensed the change for 2 seconds before walking towards the shattered window, feeling somewhat disappointed and also somewhat delighted. When grazing Kirch's, he had actually considered which Beyonder powers he wished to receive and which he didn't wish to receive. The one he didn't wish for was the danger premonition of the devil, as this needed to have creeping hunger constantly activated while maintaining Kirch's soul, and this meant that he needed to feed the glove every day, which spelled an extreme inconvenience for him. Furthermore, this also overlapped with his powers as a seer for a certain extent. As for whether the danger premonition of the devil worked after making it into his marionettes, Klein believed that it was on target for the marionettes that had nothing to do with his control. What Klein wished for was the most was to draw the desire apostle Beyonder of using target's emotionless strings, or to use any of the language of the foulness, with the best being death of corruption. At that moment, he had been quite lucky to obtain these Beyonder powers. One of them was language of foulness, but it wasn't death or corruption, but slow. This allowed all targets in a 7 or 8 meter radius to instantly turn numb, or even come to a halt. However, it could only be maintained for 2 seconds. The second Beyonder power was Sword of Lava. It could create flaming sword with extreme high offensive power. One strike could directly cleave through the thick stone columns, leaving the slice off end to appear to be molted off. This was the option Kirch's had used when he was attacking manically. The third was Sulfur Fireball. Not only could it create an explosion of considerable might, but it could also poison people and objects which had been stained from the plains. It matched the Devil's Form's power, 10 to 20 balls, but it could be launched the same instance. One of the forms it maxed out at 3. That's not bad. The damage delivered the sword by lava of undead, non-corrupt creatures is clearly higher than the Priest of Light's Light of Holiness. Klein came to the window and happened to see that the backs of Kirch's companions opened up to distance from him. They haven't shaken off the influence. No, with so much time having passed, they must have shaken off the influence and returned somewhat nearby. Now they're escaping. They sense Kirch's death. That's a little weird. Klein turned his back and saw Kirch's corpse still in the devil form. His form didn't change back into a human as a result of his death. He took the corpse for 2 seconds before coming up with a theory. Powers like the devil form are in a state of brings a body close to the state of losing control. However, they still have the reasoning and can go back to what they're in control. Otherwise, will they maintain their forms? Klein delay his search of the devil corpse. He discovered that Kirch's gentrification had torn all of his clothes and pants, causing his wallet and cash to scatter across the ground later. Steal his money! Rob him! They were all destroyed due to the blanketing attacks from the fireball's sulfurous flames. Just as Klein looked away, he suddenly discovered something twinkling in the giant devil's chest. It was a thin, long crystal form purely of blood, and faint smell of sulfur emanating around. What's this? Klein frowned, unable to figure out the answer. Kirch's beyond her characteristic clearly entered creepy hunger, which would his corpse produce some strange. A question flashed in Klein's mind. Furthermore, as the second mate of the King of Immortality, Kirch's didn't even carry a mystical item or sealed artifact. This had exceeded his expectations. Oh my god, that was so good. Everything about that was wonderful. That was peak. I loved every minute of it. I'm assuming I can change back to the other music. We're now on chapter 686. I loved everything about that. Oh, there it goes. Oh, what I was gonna say. Shit, now I forget. I was gonna say something during that, and then I was gonna say it at the end, and now I forget what I was gonna say. Oh my god, that was beautiful. That was so good. That was everything I wanted. See, okay, here's the thing. That's the kind of death that I want all characters to have. Like, I want anybody... I can't remember what I was going to say, but it was going to be about Klein's pathway. And it was just like a comparison. I can't remember what it was now. That's what I want all deaths to be. That's why I wasn't satisfied with... Am I missing a word? I am missing a word. I don't know why I didn't. Okay, hold up. I really messed this up. There we go. Fix it. There you go. That took me a minute. That was so good. Everything about that was amazing. But that's why I wasn't, like, super satisfied with Mr. A's death. Because, like, you know, his death was just, like... It just wasn't as satisfying. He just, like, disappeared. I wanted it to be, like, a whole thing. I also wanted Klein to kill him, you know? Because I just like when he does that. Because I feel like Klein needs a way to release, and it's murder. It just happens to be murder, you know? Some people do yoga, Klein kills people. And we have to love him despite maybe a few flaws. After thinking for a moment. Chapter 686. A hard to complete ritual. Oh, I remember what it was now. Hold up. Give me a minute. I'm gonna figure this out really quick. Okay. Oh, I guess it doesn't really. Well, it kind of does, because, like, what I was saying was the seer pathway in Klein shows a lot of, like, traits of Machiavellianism, and Machiavellianism is a personal trait defined by cunning manipulation and cynical disregard for morality, prioritizing self-interest and power above all else. However, here's the thing with it, is, like, it's about just, like, controlling people, and, like, it's basically, like, puppeteering people around, which is kind of what Klein does a lot of the time, and you see him do it more and more and more throughout it, using skill and charm and flattery, but ultimately to deceive to get what you want, which, like, we totally get why, like, Klein does it, and he has, like, a reason to do it, and I'm not saying he's a bad person, and it also doesn't mean that he doesn't have, like, empathy and stuff. However, you do see him have a lot of traits, and you see him having more and more and more of those traits as time goes on, and his sequencing pathway also kind of does that. Like, it masks emotion, it hides who you really are, it controls other people, it understands other people. So I just thought that was, like, a very interesting correlation between all of, like, Klein and also the seer pathway as well. You see him hiding himself and lying to himself and lying to others more and more to get to his ultimate goal, while manipulating, controlling himself and manipulating, controlling everybody else. He is. He's literally just gaslighting everybody. But the funny thing is I think the person that Klein gaslights the most is himself. Which is, like, interesting to see. And you see him, like, kind of do it more and more in, like, little segments here and there, where he'll, like, his actions won't really match up to what he's saying or what he's thinking or what he believes he's saying and thinking, but his actions will tell a different story. Like, his body will move without him understanding why it's doing it. And I think it's because, like, deep down there is, like, a part of him that is, like, I don't want to say enjoying the manipulation and the lies that he's giving, but he's getting a lot more comfortable around it. And I also think that has to do with his pathway, because his pathway, all it has to do is based around lying and deceit. Dude, maybe it's all a dream. Klein's actually dead. He's been dead the whole time. Maybe that's what it is. But yeah, I just thought that was, like, an interesting thing. And then also, you kind of also see it through, like, the dark triad, where Klein has moments of psychopathy and narcissism, and then also Machiavellianism, and you see him produce those more and more throughout this. Like the tarot club, what was it? The tarot club we just had, where because here's the thing, when you have a conversation with someone and you're, like, practicing the conversation on what to say, Klein really does puppeteer and pull strings, and he continuously thinks of how he can perpetrate this lie to other people, and then he uses his foresight of, like, his powers and ability of manipulation to foresight every possible outcome that can happen. And you'll see that really, really heavily in people who have Machiavellianism and psychopathy, and he'll do it more and more. And then his forms of narcissism come out when it doesn't come out too much, but you see, like, little tidbits of it, where he starts to become a bit more brash, and he's like, oh no, like, I'm not, like, I'm doing this for this reason, but his actions are showing signs of pride and ego. That was just something I've noticed. Anyway, chapter 686, a hard to complete ritual. After thinking for a moment, Klein, who didn't have an answer, put away the thin body crystals when he didn't sense any danger from it. Then he bent down to inspect Kirch's devil, from which he had lost half his head. I wonder if he can still use his exchange for bounty. And if so, how much can I get? I have no idea who I can contact from the military over here. Send Oz Kent a telegram. This back and forth together with the work he has to do remotely. It's hard to tell if it will finish the 3 to 4 days. I'll be leaving tomorrow. Also, I can't forget the middleman's cut. He mumbled, walking to the side, and picked up a clearly charred top hat and worked. Then he dragged the heavy and massive devil corpse and walked to the door before reaching out to open the door. A howling wind blew in, breaking this. I'm wondering, hold up, because I'm wondering. So you know how I have the theory that, like, the closer you are to becoming a god, the less human you become? I'm wondering if, okay, I'll read. Klein tapped his fingers, joined the detective in spirit body threads vision as he continued dragging the nasty and terrifying devil corpse across the corridor, down the stairs of the first floor. At that moment, there weren't many people left in the table and chairs were overturned, and there were shards everywhere. It was a mess. Klein went past the heavily damaged staircase and into the main hall. He surveyed the area and found a forlorn bar owner behind the bar counter. After a few bouncers he remained, most of them scattered off. Tap, tap, tap. Klein walked over, one step at a time, with the devil corpse behind him, bumping into the furniture. What are you planning to do? The owner took a step back and yelled at the top of his lungs. His bouncers gathered over, shuddering in fear. Their eyes were darting around, and their bodies revealed their own inclinations. It appeared as though they would immediately flee the moment any incident happened. Klein stopped in his tracks, throwing Kirch's corpse in front of him. Then he added in a deep voice, "Can you call him bounty rewards?" The owner was stunned for a second as he instinctively moved his gaze down before seeing the huge devil's corpse, which still had some blue flames lingering around it. He and his bouncers drew a cold gasp at the same time, many of them feeling surreal. This was the real devil. Apart from the lack of curled goat horns, it looked identical to the devils described in the church's Bibles or mythical stories. To ordinary people living in the pirates' playground, it wasn't rare to witness supernatural powers. Here, their horizons were clearly broader than the colonies of Orvie or the civilians of the kingdom's native soil. However, as an owner, the bouncer of the bar, he had never seen the real devils before. They even suspected that it was an attempt by the church to tarnish unofficial beyonders. The owner attracted his gaze, and with great difficulty, as he looked at the stoic adventurer in tattered clothes, they should have the means to determine that this is Kirches. It's Kirches, right? Klein suddenly heaved a sigh of relief and silently nodded. The owner hesitated for a second and forced a fearful smile. However, it's impossible to get everything. As you know, there will be some money spent during the process. The fees cost about 30%, otherwise you'll have to wait a while. After all, £9,500 isn't a small sum. For Toscarda's pier, it will take at least a week. It's because these pirates frequent these areas and there are often adventurers here who claim bounties, therefore it constantly has quite a bit of cash reserves. If you were in Orvie Island or anywhere else, it might take 2 weeks or even a month. £9,500 really wasn't a small sum. Clyland clearly remembered that back in Tingeon City, the Nighthawks team monthly budget was only about £1,000. That budget was even split between the church and the police department. He thought for a moment and asked the bar's boss, "Do you know me?" "Yes." The owner hurriedly nodded. Klein swept a gaze across everyone and continually asked, "Can you figure out where I'm living?" "Yes." The owner didn't dare to lie. Klein tersely responded before using a flat and direct tone. "Send £6,000 to me before noon tomorrow." £6,000. That's less than 70%. That's about £600 short. The owner was taken aback, never expecting a crazy adventurer to take the initiative to lower the price. "Can you do it?" Klein asked again. The additional £650 was his compensation for the bar. After all, he had left the bar in a mess. However, this wasn't something a crazy adventurer would say himself. He believed that the bar's owner wasn't a philanthropist. There was no way he could hand over the excess to the others. The owner considered it seriously before replying, "Yes." Just give me a sec. Remove, because that's disgusting. Sorry, not sorry. No! That's who did it? Ew! Bro! Oh, God. Have some self-respect, you know? Okay. This was planned on borrowing some money and using the savings to pay the bounty reward which Garamond Sparrow wanted. To be able to earn several £100s at once wasn't something he would miss out on. Klein nodded and didn't speak another word. He turned around and walked to the bar's entrance. When he came near, he took out a few yellow pennies and threw them on the tiny round table that still stood. Yes! I have a normal forehead! After some clicking sounds, the pennies spun and stopped. They numbered 8 pence. While doing this action, the black-suited Klein didn't stop walking. His figure soon disappeared from the entrance. "What's the meaning of this?" the owner said with a surprised and blank look. Most of the bouncers shook their heads at the same expression, indicating that they didn't know Garamond Sparrow's motive. Only the bouncer had been standing guard at the door through the frown. Then, he said uncertainty, when he first entered, he took someone's cup of beer and threw it at Kirches. This is the compensation for the cup of beer, as well as the cup. The bar fell into silence once again. Although the owner and the bouncers couldn't accept such an explanation, they had a baffling feeling that this matched the style of the crazy adventurer Garamond Sparrow. Yeah, it does. You know what? Yeah, it does. Harsh. Spreading positive agenda about me? I feel all warm and fuzzy inside. Is this what joy feels like? I haven't felt this since I started streaming. In the beginning. It's beautiful. I'm gonna cry. The bar fell into silence once again. Although the owner and bouncers couldn't accept such an explanation, they had a baffling feeling that this matched the style of their crazy adventurer Garamond Sparrow. he got infected with that aggressive hope core. Nice. Another set of clothes ruined. That's nearly 9 pounds. Thankfully, I made quite a lot this time. Yes, I have to make another set tomorrow. After turning into another street, Klein stopped and observed himself. Oh, David, hey! What brings you here? Didn't know. Hey, buddy! Hey! So there might have been some things said. Some people might have been saying some things. I, always have your back. My trusty lawyer. Question about your food choice, though. How dead set are we on that? Any way we can change it? Another set of clothes ruined. That's nearly 9 pounds. Thankfully, I made quite... Bro, he's like, oh, this 9 pounds for my clothes. You just made $9,000, Klein. Shut up. Yes, I have to make another set tomorrow. After turning into another street, Klein stopped and observed himself. It wasn't in a rush to return to the hotel he stayed at. He first followed the information provided by the head honcho of the Lowen New Party, Molsana, and found a policeman who was controlled by drugs. The man helped the gangs commit several sordid deeds, and the point of creating a scheme to kill witnesses. He channeled his spirit, confirmed the crimes before allowing Creeping Hunger to enjoy the true feast for the day. Aww. Creeping Hunger is like a little dog, It's like, here's the thing. I feel like if Creeping Hunger, he's like a little pet. He's like a dog. What kind of pizza, though? Here's the thing. What kind of pizza? After setting up the altar, he used the ritual to send Creeping Hunger and the thin blood crystal above the gray fog. Sitting at the end of the long bronze table, Klein didn't hesitate to pick up the glove and release the soul of the Priest of Light. The Sequence 5 powerhouse had a thin face and an elegant bearing. He was an admiral elder who wore a simple white clergyman robe. He bowed and expressed his gratitude to the mysterious existence who was concealed by the gray fog. I'm sorry, but no. Margarita pizza is like a fresh, delicious pizza. I don't think we need to smite him yet. I don't think we need to smite David yet. Because if it was maybe a different pizza, like a cheeseburger pizza, might slap. But a margarita pizza? I don't think so. The grayish world quickly changed. She saw the Priest of Light roll one piece of brownish goatskin in the room and filled sunlight. It was a formula written in ancient Faceac, sequence 6 in order... Oh, no way! Harsh. I'm about to pin your comment. Main ingredient, 1 set of crystallized roots in the tree of elders, 5 feathers, and spirit packed bird. Supplementary ingredients, 100 milliliters of radiant spirit, packed tree juice, 1 golden rimmed sunflower, 1 right rimmed sunflower, 5 drops of aquafern juice. Let's go. Let's go. After the scene paused for a few seconds, ripples surfaced again, outlining the opulent hall filled with golden statues. Inside the hall, a man covered in pure light that prevented one from looking straight at him said to the half-centenarian elder, "This is the potion formula for the Priest of Light. Remember, dispel the darkness and praise the sun." The elder received in excitement, spread open the ancient goatskin. Sequence 5, Priest of Light. Main ingredient, red comb of a dark dawn rooster, a pure white brilliance rock. Supplementary ingredients, 5 grams of rosemary, 7 drops of the fingered citron juice. It's back. Fingered citron juice, 10 milliliters of rock water, 60 milliliters of King of Dawn rooster's blood. Ritual, in pure darkness, bury your entire body in ice. Absolutely not. I'd be out. I would never advance past sequence 6. I'm not burying my entire body in ice. That is terrifying. That usually doesn't melt before consuming the potion. The entire seed quickly vanished without an additional content. Klein wasn't surprised. He knew very well that when it involved the domain of the demigod, the 7 churches would often directly provide the potions and rituals without giving them the formula. At this moment, the Priest of Light figure had mostly dispersed due to the forceful spirit channeling. His painful expression eased as he raised his head and spread out his arms as though he was embracing sunlight. Praise the sun! The Priest of Light closed his eyes as previously said. Those were his last words, and the spirit body rapidly disintegrated, plummeting into the gray fog before completely disappearing. A pious believer, Klein sighed in comment. Following that, he recalled what he had seen in his dream and recorded the formula. The main ingredient of notoriety is the root crystal of the tree of elder. I remember that Miss Justice's psychiatrist potion required the fruit tree of the elders. From the looks of it, the spectator and sun pathways might be interchangeable at high sequences. The difficulty of the Priest of Light ritual for most people is to find ice that usually doesn't melt, but it's different for Little Sun. To bury a living person in pure darkness in the forsaken land of God might lead to one's disappearance. A method to avoid this has to be figured out. Dispel the darkness and praise the sun is an acting method. Klein considered for a moment before picking up the blood crystal produced by Kirch's body. After a few seconds of consideration, he wrote down the corresponding divination statement and, in a serious matter, its origins. Holding up the item and the piece of paper, Klein chanted softly once more and entered a dream. In the gray, blurry world, he saw a gigantic sailboat, the death announcer. With a bow and stern curving up high, he saw Kirch's climb a soft ladder and arrive on the deck. Transparent, hey! Welcome to the party. I'm not getting slandered. And nice things were actually said about me. Who knew all you had to do was throw somebody under the bus? I would have fucking ran the bus over them a long time ago if I knew that. Just as the Desire Apostle found out footing and sticky black fog. It was filled with corporate smells and enveloped Kirch's with its corrupting tainting, but the shimmering objects on him, including his body. The gas quickly contracted and entered Kirch's body, and the color gradually turned red, as though it was blood-stained. Finally, everything was restored to normal. Kirch's genuinely as he affected to the deck, "Your will is my will. Great death announcer." Following that, the scene shattered and Klein opened his eyes. As he sat straight and looked at the thin and long blood crystal and thought, he silently said, "Death's announcer is alive. A sealed artifact with living traits. The crystal is the source of its control over the crew, and it comes equipped with intense corruptive force. Therefore, mystical items in low levels will be corrupted by it." Ooh! Blatherer. I think it's a blatherer. Blatherer, yeah. What a weird word. What a weird word. Also, we don't need to talk about how I maybe possibly a little bit slander Transparent today, but that's okay. I didn't mean to. I didn't even slander. I was just trying to divert slander off me onto her. That's all I was doing. Blather. Picking up the blood crystal and smelling the faint smell of sulfur, Klein could vaguely sense the corrosive powers hidden deep within. Legend has it that the abyss is the area of the greatness, powerful corruption. Cammy, first you like trains, now you like turtles. How you doing, buddy? You know, just wondering. Even an angel will fall and lose control there. The people guarding the abyss will eventually be assimilated by the abyss. Not assimilated. Assimilated. Is it assimilated? It's assimilated by the abyss. The character shown by the Desire Apostle does not match this point. I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with tism. I probably got a little bit of tism. You got a little bit of tism. Everybody got a little bit of tism. That's all I'm saying. You know. The character shown by the Desire Apostle doesn't match this point. Deepening the assimilation of the Desire Apostle, Klein allowed his thoughts to wander. Soon he knows a detail. Kirches had declared loyalty to the Death Announcer and not to the King of Immortality, Agalito. everybody. Does this mean that the real king of immortality is a death announcer? Egolito is only its spokesperson for the administrator to infect targets. Rumor has it that Egolito isn't a demigod, it isn't a sequence 4. He relies solely on the death announcer to become one of the 4 kings. If that's the case, his actual situation is worse than I expected. He doesn't even have an autonomy. Of course, he can eliminate the possibility that he's a sequence 4, and his relationship with the death announcer is just one of the cooperating, not saying that word properly, cooperating partners. He's a demon after all. He's crafty and enjoys misleading people. Klein contemplated for a few seconds before attempting another divination to see if he could obtain any Klein contemplated for a few seconds before attempting another divination to see if he could obtain any relevation for the blood crystal usage. He wasn't afraid that he would incur such trouble for him, or it could be said that he was already prepared to receive any, even if it was connected to the Devil King in any. Abyss, it would be equivalent to the backlash from the True Creator or Eternal Blazing Sun. I just had a thought, that's all. That was all that happened. I just had a thought. I think I was hearing ravings, not gonna lie. That's pretty much it. I mean, he's been against this present. This is the first time. I won't have my location locked on, so it's not a big problem. Besides, I've already divined the origin that wasn't any danger. Therefore, the death announcer definitely isn't a sequence 0 devil. Isn't that obvious? If it's really a sequence 0 devil or a sealed artifact at that level of the King Angels, Amon, then there's no need to avoid the joint force of me, Queen Mystic, Admiral Stars, and Anderson. Klein realized that he had been frightening himself. He began to seriously begin the dream divination. In the blurry world, he saw a world covered with sticky black fog. A monster formed from the dark-colored lumps of flesh squirmed over his body cavity, producing a raging roar blatherer. The scene changed, producing an ancient look, altered, which was splashed with fresh blood. Engraved on it were the words, symbols filled with corrupted feelings. It was as though they were shouting something. The hazy world shatters. Klein slowly opened his eyes and sat straight. He tapped his fingers on the edge of the long bronze table and muttered to himself. Blathering referred to a state before the death announcer became a sealed artifact. It was a gigantic monster formed from the dark-colored lumps of flesh that became a sealed artifact after being killed by the Latherer. Regardless of the final confirmation he involved otherwise, it would have solidified into a present state. From the laughter of the person from the laughter of the person who was on the brink of losing control, it's very likely that the death announcer corresponded with Blatherer. The preliminary predictions is that it isn't a grade 0 sealed artifact. Otherwise, King of Immortality would be the best of the 4 kings. It's probably a sequence 3. Furthermore, Egolito clearly doesn't match well with it. The level of power shown isn't that high. It's at most sequence 4. That corruption altar that gave off a feeling as though it was shouting suggested that the blood crystal is able to summon a high-level devil. For example, the Blatherer. Having no idea how to summon a high-level devil, nor having planned on doing so, Klein casually threw the thin blood crystal along the blasphemer characteristic. The glowing crystal left behind the Priest of Light into the junk pile, then he perfunctorily named the former aura of Blatherer. After doing this, Klein cautiously attempted another divination to confirm if he was encountering any danger at night, danger that came from the King of Immortality, Egolito. In fact, he already had a prediction for the divination outcome. King of Immortality, Egolito, won't touch ground on the land. Firstly, it's become Toss Carter had a hidden demigod. Ordinary beyonders might not know, but the 4 kings would have some level of understanding, and it was unlike Egolito would wish to have his head on conflict with other demigods. Forcefully entering the territory of another person wasn't his style. Secondly, Klein's previous theory had produced a conclusion. Egolito didn't dare to leave the death announcer, and the death announcer had no way of going ashore. Indeed, Klein received the revelation that it would be very safe at night. This means that he didn't need to change his appearance and move to another hotel. Around 9 in the morning the next day, Klein saw Anderson Hood appear the moment he walked into the restaurant on the first floor and found a seat. Anderson immediately sat opposite him. The strongest hunter used to figure his comb and short blonde hair, making his part 70-30. As he looked at Cameron Sparrow, he hissed with a laugh. Impressive, you managed to hunt Kirches even when fighting 1-on-3. And the way you dragged the devil corpse downstairs had already spread throughout Toscutter Pier. It's said that every pirate with a bounty on their head has decided to distance himself from your sights. They will not appear anywhere within 5-kilometer radius of you. Even since he acquired himself with Frank Lee, Klein had quit drinking milk. He raised his hand to order a cup of coffee, pieced the white bread and toast, and roasted the pork sausages in a plate of butter. Then he replied in an extreme calm manner, "Your ability at gathering intel is pretty good." Because here's the thing. I was actually going to say the devil pathway is kind of cool. Don't know if I'd be going past sequence 6 or sequence 7, but that's okay. Jesus. Also, I kept pausing because I kept having theories as I was reading it, but yeah, because I keep thinking about like what's happening in the story and like piecing things together, you know? But I also think I just might be going crazy. It's like piecing things together, going crazy, could really go either way, you know? I will after this chapter. I have 7 pages left, and then I will after this chapter. Remind me. This is necessary for Hunter. The Toscutter adventure discussing the serious question is those the strongest hunter. When Anderson saw Cameron Sparrow look up at the cold and ambiguous gaze, his smile froze. They've all chosen you. After all, this is the Sony Sea and not the Fog Sea. Why did you need to add the second sentence? It's just asking for a beating. Klein casually asked as though being indifferent. Anything else? Anderson suddenly felt his comprehension skills were impeded. Any other intel? Klein repeated himself with more details. There is, Anderson slightly signaled with his eyes. Molsana from the Low and New Party has mysteriously disappeared last night. He mysteriously disappeared in his own room while being protected by countless guards. The official explanation that Molsana had already died. The reason was that he possibly encountered an evil god or summoned a devil. No one believes that. It's because the Church of Storms has received an anonymous letter that had a detailed record of Molsana's crimes as well as evidence. He stated intently that Cameron Sparrow, hoping that the crazy adventure would provide him with more information. He clearly remembered that Cameron Sparrow had just asked him who deserved to be killed yesterday afternoon, and his answer was Molsana from the Low and New Party. Klein tersely responded without saying anything more. At that moment, the figure rushed into the hotel. After looking around, he walked towards Klein in delight. He was none other than the bar owner from before. Mr. Sparrow! The owner took off his bonnet and had a depression in the middle of his brow. It has already been confirmed, but the process will take another 2 days. After all, it's too large a sum. I know you'll be leaving today, so in order to not delay your schedule, I've decided to cover the bounty for now. Well, a portion of it comes from the bar's liquid cash, and a portion of it loaned from a friend's. Please make sure the number is right. He deliberately spoke in detail to express his goodwill to Cameron Sparrow while earning a profit. He wanted to befriend the crazy adventurer. As for whether King of Immortality would seek revenge on him, he wasn't too worried. Many a time, Kirches would similarly claim bounties through him. After all, it was a reward for battles between pirates. Everyone liked gaining some additional cash. It was unspoken rule at sea. Klein didn't count the thick cash notes worth 6,000 pounds. He split them into a few stacks and placed them into different pockets. Then he said with a good nod, "Not bad." The bar owner heaved a sigh of relief. Then he warmly surveyed his surroundings before suppressing his voice. "You have to be careful. King of Immortality is a very vengeful person. He might intercept your ship at sea." He didn't dare to say that he had the means of arranging some board certain ships and depart the secrets after. That it would be detected by the King of Immortality, and that he would suffer relations as a result. "I know," Klein replied indifferently. The bar owner didn't speak further. He bowed once more and left the hotel restaurant. "Do you have a means to leave?" Anderson looked at Cameron Sparrow with a look of curiosity. "Guess." Klein revealed a gentlemanly smile. The corners of Anderson's lips twitched. "I'm relieved by seeing your confidence. By the way, the tickets, it's all set sail at 1:30 in the afternoon. Impressive. I thought I would rather amazing earning 6,000 pounds in a night, or 1,600 pounds in a night. Who knew?" Klein didn't respond as he began enjoying his breakfast. Later, he made a new suit and prevented himself from lacking a change of clothes. Time passed, and soon it was time to board the ship. Anderson held a newly bought suitcase and looked at Cameron Sparrow beside him. He asked, seemingly worried, "Are we just leaving on this ship?" The death announcer should be around the surrounding waters. The future left yesterday after it was resupplied. He felt that leaving while under the wrath of the King of Immortality wasn't a wise choice. It's impossible for Gibbon's Barrow to be crazy enough to just storm right into death, right? Unless this is his trap? A thought came to Anderson as he had a hunch. Klein didn't turn his head to look at him. He directly boarded the liner with his suitcase. His thoughts were simple. It was likely that Death Announcer could sense something wrong with his aura. Based on the King of Immortality's modus operandi, it was likely for him to make a forceful assault. If his assumption was wrong, then the moment the Death Announcer appealed along the horizon, Klein would immediately enter his room and pray to himself. Then he would go above the great fog and use the scepter to respond. He wanted to see who was stronger, the blatherer at sea or the sea god. This wasn't Klein's original plan. He had planned on using the sea god's scepter ability to command sea creatures, to find the underwater carriage for himself. Then, under layers of protection from the charm, he would pull Anderson into the waters and escape the range of the Death Announcer blockade before secretly boarding the liner he had tickets to. However, in conclusion, with the target of revealing had disappeared, all of a sudden it was possible for the King of Immortality would vent his anger on others by slaughtering liner indiscriminately. After all, the pirates didn't abide by the laws, nor did they come with the proper mortals. After driving above the great fog, Klein ultimately decided to leave brazenly. What? What the fuck? I just saw a bunch of, like, messages deleted, and then everything else. And I was like, okay. Also, what was I supposed to stop at today? Chapter 689 or chapter 688? Chapter 688? Chapter 689? Oh my fucking lord. Oh, 94. 4-hour stream. Oh my god, dude. My foot is so fucking itchy right now. 94 if you can. Okay. I would have 6 more chapters. I think I just read 6 chapters. And that took about an hour and 45 minutes. So, I literally just said my foot's itchy. Sorry. Oh, theory time. So here's the thing with okay. So I'm wondering, and it's not even really a theory. I'm just trying to connect dots with like how everything works. I'm wondering if, oh fuck, I forget his name now. I'm forgetting his name. The guy, you know, I'm gonna come back to it. I'm gonna come back to it. That was the theory. Can't even fucking remember his name. Chapter 688, Fruitless Wait. After hitting the deck, entering the cabin, and coming to his room, Klein was just about to say something when Anderson Hood spoke before he could. That's not right. If the passengers on the board this ship, I'd definitely be very afraid and nervous to see an adventurer who just offended the King of Immortality. Oh, okay. Is it? Okay. So you know the, fuck, I can't, the pirate captain, the guy, why am I forgetting his name? Somebody list all of the pirate captains and I'll think of their name. But anyway, I'm wondering if because I know he's like really high up and he's like lived for a really long time, but I'm wondering if we're gonna meet him. And yeah, that one. I pointed to it right away. So I'm wondering if No. I can't think of the train of thought I had when I was thinking of the question, because it's not going to come out properly. Okay, I'm going to think on it and I'm going to come back. I will have it by the end of the stream, because I had it in my brain and now I can't think of what it was, how it wanted it to come out. That's not right. If I were a passenger on this boat, the ship, I'd definitely be very afraid and nervous to see an adventurer who just offended the King of Immortality. I'd either get a captain or first mate to convince you to switch another ship, or I would switch ships myself. To my surprise, all of them are especially calm. This guy is very sharp. He's able to notice the minute details. Is a real conspirer, often acting happy-go-lucky, shooting off his mouth and being optimistic, but in actuality, he has silently grasped the situation and made his preparations. As Klein opened the door and his key, he began considering the ship had any real problems. I'm also wondering if he's gonna do like I'm wondering if he's gonna do like a big battle with him at the end. Because here's the thing, I think it'd just be like really cool if like he did a big battle and then he became, At that moment, Anderson raised his hand and slapped himself in the cheek before laughing dryly. I get it. It happened just recently and the matter only... I know, I might have done it. Only spread among the number of adventurers and pirates. Typically, tourists and sailors won't even know of this. Besides, people who know what you look like are definitely people with good intel, not ordinary people. Wow, he knows to answer his own question. Do you know that time of life? Klein lampooned and entered the first class cabin. It wasn't that he wished to enjoy comfort, but that he needed to watch over Anderson Hood. He didn't want this unluckiest hunter to bring disaster to the liner, so he had gotten him to the first class cabin for themselves. He always has to, always just sharing a cabin. Always getting it booked for him and his accomplice. Gotta keep an eye on him. We know your fucking game here, buddy. With the suitcase in hand, he walked straight to the master bedroom. Klein pointed to the guest room and the servant room. He said to Anderson, choose one for yourself. Anderson was taken aback as he turned to Gabe. You're very used to this. Of course, I have rich experience in interacting with hunters. If Donitz were here... Okay. If Donitz were here, I would designate him to the servant's room. Klein didn't answer as he entered the master bedroom. 1:30, the steam engine... There's 3 bedrooms. Donit's gonna show up, and he's gonna go to the... This is foreshadowing. He's going to the servant's room. And then all 3 of them are gonna be together. 1:30, the steam engine whistled and the liner set off. After hanging his coat, Klein walked to the master bedroom in pants and a shirt and a vest. He looked out the window at the horizon. Thanks to the wind, his green waves ebbed as they spread along the outline as the tossed Carter Island inch by inch. There's no way to see the full situation. Anderson came over and smiled. You can only ensure that there's no problems for one of the flanks, and the death announcer might appear from the other flank, or the front. The best option is to climb to the crow's nest. There's definitely a crew member there, but an experienced hunter or pirate as 100 means to fool his senses. Klein turned around and looked at Anderson with a stoic expression. Well said. I'll leave this to you. Anderson was taken aback. He snapped his senses and asked in surprise, you don't have any other means to observe? Without an other means to observe, how was he to lay a trap for the King of Immortality? No, Klein nodded his head in abnormal frankness. I can only rely on you. Who gave you the courage to leave under the King of Immortality's scrutiny? Anderson was momentarily speechless. As he muttered to himself, don't stop me, I'm jumping ship. He left the cabin room and headed for the bottom. Brokeback Pirates is crazy. But, look, here's the thing. I'm not implying anything. I'm interpreting the implications. I'm interpreting the implyment that is happening. It is being, it's subtext. And I'm just reading between the lines. That's all I'm doing. I'm filling in the gaps that Cuttlefish was too cowardice to fill in, In theory, the Client of Immortality, Egolito, or the Death Announcer, should have long sensed my ill intent and sensed the danger that stems from me. Okay, I'll stop. Then they will get attacked. Will they believe that I'm at a level I show myself as, and I don't have any helpful tips? I will then suspect the same powerhouse who can interfere the premonition for danger did some for That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. He couldn't do it. He couldn't do it, and that's okay. Nobody's blaming him that he couldn't do it. But we know what was hinted at, and that's okay. We'll leave it up for interpretation. After a while, he sensed something as he quickly activated his spirit vision and turned his head to look at the side. The tall skeleton messenger burrowed up from the ground, and the black flames in the eye socket jumping slightly. It only revealed its upper body, so it wasn't too much taller than Klein. It looked at him at eye level and handed him a letter in his hands. Mr. Azek replied pretty quickly this time. Klein politely nodded and received the neatly folded piece of paper. After the skeleton messenger collapsed and disappeared, he unfolded the letter against the sunlight coming from the window. I'm very happy to hear about your advancements. Your travels have been more interesting than I had imagined. Those waters are indeed very dangerous. I vaguely remember that it might have to do with the source of the cataclysm. As for why there's a remnant aura of ancient death there, I'm not too sure. I'll keep you waiting in mind before completely recovering my memories. I'll not enter those waters. The true creator's ravings aren't pleasant to the ear. I'm somewhat interested in the ringworm by Admiral Hell. However, I recently been embroiled in some past matters. I might need some time before I pay a visit. Upon seeing this, Klein couldn't help but smile. After replying to Mr. Azek, I'll tell him that I have the means to lock onto Admiral Hell Ludwig's location. I must get him to bring me along with him when it pays a visit. Oh no, I didn't divine the location of the Murloc cuffling recently. I'm not sure if Ludwig has discovered it or thrown it away. Yes, I'll divine him of the Grey Fog after I confirm the Death Announcer isn't pursuing me. Moving his gaze away, Klein continued reading. The ancient chronicles I received from Katerina does mention matters regarding artificial death. It put it simply, the former royal family of the Balam Empire, presented upper echelon to the numinous episcopate, had gained inspiration from the hidden sage, suddenly coming to life and turning anthropomorphic. That was a big word for Dara. I'm really proud of myself. They wish to let death, which is a present only a concept, to experience something similar. There's a possibility of being fueled due to the indestructibility of bionic characteristics. The perishing of death doesn't mean that the corresponding bionic characteristics and authority have been completely lost. According to the chronicles, the corresponding research hasn't reached a breakthrough, but that was from centuries ago. The sequence 4 corresponding to Seer is Bizarro Sorcerer. The powerhouses from the Antigonus and Zertal family left me with a deep impression. Even though I've already forgotten the details, my recollection are still able to bring me some feelings of fear. As for where to get the formula and ingredients, I'm not sure. Perhaps you can consider switching to neighboring pathways. No! Here's the thing. I really hope Klein doesn't switch pathways. Anybody else, and I'm like, sure, switch pathways, it's a cool thing. I want Klein, because I also think that Klein and his pathway are just like so interconnected and like just like meant to do it. I really hope he doesn't switch pathways, and I actually think I might be a little upset if he does, to be totally honest. Sequence 4 Sorcerer of the Apprentice pathway and Sequence 4 Parasite of the Mortar pathway. However, I vaguely remember that these 3 pathways only switching after Sequence 3. Indeed, there's only a Rhodes left. Klein forcefully produced a grin. After reading the reply, he took out a pen and paper, wrote down the parts of the content and already thought of it, as well as asking what the exact definition of mythical creatures. I heard something about Apothecary Diaries. What are we talking about? My interest has been piqued. After putting down the pen and paper, he wasn't in a hurry to summon a messenger. He planned to wait for the Death Announcer to appear before adding the request for helping. Oh, yeah. You know? I do too. I have a little Jinshi and a little Mau Mau on my desk. And then I also have another Jinshi and another Mau Mau on my tree. Yeah. Also, tax evasion isn't that bad. Could have done worse, you know? Yeah, it could have been touching kids, you know? Could have been like the emperor. Who knows? Klein had no idea whether they could have sensed the exact contents of his current ill intent. After patiently waiting for a few hours, Klein heard the door open. When he looked back, he saw Anderson stroking the side of his face. He walked in with mixed emotions. But here's the thing. I don't know. The author, she didn't really give off a touching kids vibe, especially because of how awful she made the characters that do in her books, which, fair, disgusting. But tax evasion, you know, sometimes not paying your taxes isn't always the worst thing. It happens. Some people do it. Not me, Canadian government. I've always paid my taxes. And that's just what it is. Do not clip this. Anyway, the King of Immortality actually didn't seek revenge. Stop! No! David, I might need... I don't know how lawyery you are. I might need an actual lawyer. Klein gave... What is happening right now? It would have been standard. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. People do worse crimes. People do worse crimes than maybe sometimes possibly hypothetically forgetting to do their taxes. Hypothetically, you know? That's all I'm saying. In a secret chamber in a small... It's not like they didn't take the money off of my paychecks. Sometimes you just hypothetically forget to file them come tax season. Hypothetical. Soul Assurer held a chalk and pointed to the blackboard. The devil... Please, nobody answer this question. Y'all are too fucked up for this question. Please, no. Please, no. No. You have your heart, your humor is too dark. The humor is too dark to answer this question. Cause let's be honest. Let's be honest. Everybody would commit fraud. I feel like I would commit fraud. And so would everybody else. And then you just, you know? But it's spicy, you know? Like fraud, you can do a lot with it. Like you can do investment fraud, you can do money laundering fraud, you can do like insurance fraud, you can do so many cool little frauds. Tax fraud. It's as safe as thick. Finally, they've suspected of belonging to the Beria family. At that moment, Leonard... That's what I'm saying. At that moment, Leonard, who appeared to be listening attentively in the corner, could... Oh, whoa, hold up. I skipped something. Skipping something. Because why is Leonard here? I got really distracted by fraud. Klein gave a regretful nod, walked to his coat, and took out the coat in perception, headed for the dining hall. In a secret chamber in a small red gloves team, with discussing the case they were on, Sol Assur Saus held a chalk and pointed at the blackboard. The devil murder case at this time has been similar to assassination of Duke Negan in Backland. First, the human skin was its own smell and aura appeared. No, I'm just sneezing, okay? Appeared as something that hasn't appeared in many of the devil-related cases in the past. Second, there's more than one devil. They take turns wearing the human skin in order to carry out their normal activities. To conceal their partner's evil acts. Finally, they're suspected of belonging to the Beria family. At that moment, Leonard, who appeared to be listening attentively in the corner, couldn't help but recall something when his captain mentioned Backland. Having witnessed the complete destruction of the underground ruin, he wanted to find time for himself to investigate the mysterious detective. Sherlock Moriarty. Yeah, he does. Go get your boy. Go get your boy, Leonard. Sorry, Cammy, but had to. He had planned on starting from Sherlock Moriarty's former landlord, but his team looked into the emergency case and began investigating the new series of serial murders. He had no choice but to leave Backland. Leonard, what's your take on this? After Soas finished his briefing, he named Leonard Mitchell to continue. Leonard turned his head to the side in daze and looked at the content in the blackboard. He quickly organized his words and said, I believe that it's not only a form of concealment, but it's also a requirement of a particular ritual. Captain Soas, as you know, devils have many kinds of blasphemous and evil rituals. Reasonable deduction. He's like, thanks, Captain Obvious. Soas suggested for another team member to speak in his piece. Thankfully, Old Man has recently been catching me up on his devil studies. Leonard heaved a sigh of relief and began attentively listening to the discussions of his team. He was like, Leonard, do you want in on this? Leonard's like, hey, I'm just gonna speak common knowledge everyone knows. He's like, cool, Leonard. Shush. Cammy. You have been so nice to me recently. What is with this aggression, this anger towards me? I've done nothing wrong. I've only spoken the truth. The gospel truth that, you know, our Lord and Savior Cuttlefish couldn't speak himself. I am his, you know, what are they called? The people that say the stuff? The people that say the stuff in the book? What are those people called? You know? First off, Bullseye, you don't get to know if Messiah. That's what I am, yes. First off, Bullseye, you don't get to know if my roommate is hot. She is very pretty, but you don't get to know that because you were already weird about my mom. So no. Thankfully, Old Man has recently been catching me up on a devil studies. Leonard heaved a sigh of relief and began. Whoa. 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 I don't even know if that passed. Did that? I don't even know if that went through. I promise I didn't censor that one. That's crazy. I don't know if John's what he's going through. I do believe two men can be friends. I do. Ain't nothing wrong with it. Go for it. Might be little leg. I don't know. After a 2-day voyage, the liner safely arrived at Orvie Island. After checking into a hotel, Klein said, God, Bullseye, what did you say? I was like, no, don't call my mom a baddie. Bullseye. Look. Okay. You're not wrong. My mom is a very pretty lady. She a baddie. She is. But, you know. That's my mom. So. That's my mom. That's my mama. Keep my mom's name out of your mouth. So, I don't know. You guys can deal with my dad. Yeah, have at her. He didn't wish to expose the contact person of his life school of thought. I hope I'll have to see him. The corners of Klein's mouth twitched and he gave up saying anything further. He rode the carriage and went straight for the Church of Storm, St. Draco Cathedral. Before long, he arrived once again in the small room. She's not. She has a long-term boyfriend. So there you go. I don't know much about Mr. Door. I know he's around and we've seen him a couple times, but I don't know much. Yeah, Bullseye, you have a girlfriend. Behave yourself. The corners of Klein's mouth twitched. He gave up on anything further. Harsh. I can pull, you know. Maybe not right now. I don't want to right now. I don't want to right now. Doesn't mean I can't. How do we know the relationship failed because of me? Oh my god. Before long he arrived once again. The small room in the magnificent bell tower. Please don't. Transparent. Please don't. You're gonna be so mean. After hearing Garvin Sparrow's intentions, the Hurricane Carnot nodded. I'll bring you to Mr. Ricardo. He is recovered. He is already recovered and no longer where he originally was. All right. Mother's human referring, and then he asked a question. Do you know Frank Lee? Chapter 689. Oh my god, it's already been like 2 hours. Holy shit. No, Lou doesn't have any clips because I've never slandered you a day in my life. You're my lawyer. And I don't do that. You know. No, the chapters have been really long. Because I have a page count on any of the chapters. The past 2 or 3 chapters were all like 18, 19 pages. Like, they were really long chapters. I also was yapping quite a bit there for a minute, but like they were really long chapters. Bellman Carnot's expression immediately turned odd when he heard Frank Lee's name. I'm not even, dude, transparent. I'm not, I'm mid, bro. I'm fucking mid. I'm medium chopped. That's crazy. It's not a bad grade, but it's It's mid. I would rather be ugly than mid. 6 on a good day. Thank you. The 3 is for forehead. No! I can't control the forehead, you guys. The forehead controls me. I don't know what to do about it. I'm medium chopped because I've got a forehead the size of Texas. And I can't do anything about that. Fuck you. Fuck you. No. Ah! I get a 7 out of 10 because I have a 7 head. Cause my forehead, it just don't end. What was that? No! David, don't bring up that repost. No! Dude, I got clocked so bad. I don't even know why I reposted that. I was like, I'm outing myself at this point. Kicking and screaming. God. Why'd you give it to me? Why couldn't you make me petite, my forehead small? Yes, he's kind of a pure person, but at times his pureness is terrifying. Indeed. No, David, no. Okay, I'll take elevated mid. I'm like, here's the thing. I'm like a spicy medium chopped, you know? It's like, not a spicy, I'm like a, yeah, I'm gonna say spicy. I'm like a spicy medium chopped, you know? Klein made his way and allowed the bellman to walk downstairs. Oh, bro, upper mid chopped? Okay. That's like, I'm like upper middle class. I have like a house on my forehead. Anyway, Karn silently walked ahead, and after a while, he said with back facing Gehrman, Sparrow, I'm a failed product. I'm a failed product too. That's okay. I'm done. I'm done for. That's okay. I always mocked, and only Frank was one of the few who looked at me normally, treating me as someone with real soul. Why did he leave the Church of Earth Mother? Klein asked, desperately knowing the answer. Here's the thing, my forehead's so big because it's filled with so much brain. I have so much brain in here. You know what it is? I give so much head. Nope, taking it back. I have brain. Anyway. I didn't mean it like that. I didn't mean it like that. I didn't mean it like that. Harsh. Keep my mom's name out of your mouth. Do not. No. He's an orphan. He grew up in the cloister from a young age. Wow. He really treats the church as family and views Earth Mother as his mother. Sounds like a bitch. He has many... I'm sorry, I'm talking about Frank Lee. That was so rude. That was so mean. I should not talk about him like that. He has many strange ideas. I don't know why it's censoring. Crazy. He has many strange ideas, and he has the opportunity of becoming a diocese bishop, but he was later nearly sent to the tribunal for being sacrilegious. Frankly mentioned this before. He was trying to crossbreed a bull and a cow and wheat together. To be frank, nice joke. If it were me, I would have sent him to the tribunal as well. This guy was fine earlier on because of his low sequence, limiting what he can do. Klein mumbled and followed Carnot down another street and arrived at the alley behind St. Draco Cathedral. There you go, you're back. I don't know, some stuff it just censors, and I don't censor it, but it does censor it sometimes. And I say, okay. Klein immediately saw an elder in the black short coat with a hard cane. His hair was white as snow, but he didn't have any obvious wrinkles. He wore a black eye mask around his eyes. Mr. Counselor, Mr. Gavin Sparrow is here to pay you a visit. Counselor Ricardo. He's Counselor Ricardo. He's blind. Ooh, diversity. Previously, nope. Klein had only heard his voice without meeting him. It was no wonder he was surprised. Ricardo turned his ear to the side and slowly turned his head towards Gavin Sparrow and chuckled. Sorry, I can only meet you this way. When I woke up this morning, I suddenly had a premonition. Sorry, I can only meet you this way. I only woke up this morning and had a sudden premonition. Then I mustn't open my eyes and see anything today. To prevent any accidents, I wore an eye mask. You can certainly do that. He in no way is inferior as a charlatan. Klein was momentarily amused and surprised. Following that, he understood the correct interpretation of his premonition. He didn't want to see him. Oh my god, hey! Welcome. We're having a great time. Thanks for joining. He remembered the Beyonders from the monster pathway were able to see things that couldn't see. Therefore, Snake and Mercury was Biloseptin and able to sense my uniqueness. Back then in Tingen City, oh dude, I can never fucking say this one. Adamasols wasn't that hard. Eyes bled and he collapsed to the ground simply from seeing me. Counselor Ricardo sensed the danger and wore an eye mask ahead of time. Bro, we can't be talking about my forehead like that. It's not, okay, here's the thing. It's not even that big. Like, I know we joke about, okay, no, stop. Because here's the thing. I know we joke about my forehead. My forehead's not even that big. It's just like, you know, pronounced. It's just a prominent feature. But it's not like it's not big. It's just maybe the first thing you look at when you look at me. Not for now, Ricardo said with a smile. After recovering from my injuries, I went to BAM. I was lucky that there were some adjustments on the upper echelons of the Navy and Governor General's office, so I successfully rescued Roy King, but it was a waste of time. Klein hadn't expected that, he said, without any sign of surprise. Then, also, that photo that got sent in the group chat that I sent, regrettably, my mouth isn't that big. Is my mouth big? Is this why I'm upper middle class? Not upper middle class. Yeah, I'm upper middle chopped. Do I have a big mouth and a big forehead? No. Dude, my dad always used to tell me that I had a bulbous nose. Don't know why I'm telling you this, but he did. And then I had that. You know? But that's cool. Klein nodded and walked towards the alley, and his suitcase in hand. He took the opportunity to ask, Mr. Counselor, what do you know about the Mother Tree of Desire? From Klein's point of view, the Life School of Thought and the Rose School of Thought were at odds with each other, so it's likely that they knew each other very well. You know what? Thank you, Hope. Everything is relative. You can stay. Please stay. And Cammy, once again, I've been silenced. That's cool. Mother Tree of Desire and the Rose School of Thought's manifestation of the Chained God. However, I suspected that the truth is actually in reverse. The Chained God is one of the Mother Tree of Desire's many manifestations. My reasoning is that is the Mother Tree of Desire that tree that they were fucking in the other episode? Or not the other episode, the other chapter? Bachelor. Yep. Yes, Klein succulently answered. He didn't even express his knowledge of the Great White Brotherhood. Ricardo tersely acknowledged, in short, no one knows the true identity of the Mother Tree of Desire, nor does anyone know what her pathway is. Perhaps that's her. Yeah. I feel like the Mother Tree of Desire probably got some demoness in her. In more ways than one. Hey! Sorry. But also, bye. Thanks so much for coming. You know, that's kind of what it was. True identity in addition can provide some in-depth information. The Mother Tree Desire and the Primordial Moon are at odds. These seem to be indiscernible conflicts between them, and it's because of this that the Rose School of Thought views us as an enemy. Oh, David, you need more slander? Or, like, so are we... I mean, we could all slander David. I'd be super down to slander David. Is everybody down to do that? I think so. I think we all are. The 7 churches hate the true creator. Oh, okay. Join the Rose School of Thought. The 7 churches hate the true creator, primordial demoness, dark side of the universe, and the other evil gods, but their hatred for the primordial moon and the Mother Tree of Desire runs even deeper. Similarly, the Aurora Order, Demoness Sect, and Blood Sanctified Sect, and the Moses Aztec Order do not like the Rose School of Thought. It's interesting. Mother Tree of Desire is one of the 2 most isolated ones. Klein stopped the carriage while he thought as he watched Carnet help Ricardo up the carriage. Then he entered the carriage and destructively drive her and bring them to the nearby hotel. Before long, the carriage arrived in the destination. Just as Klein was about to get off, he suddenly heard a loud bang. The rumble explosion shook the entire street and glass fragments when the window fell from the ground. No way. Could it be caused by Anderson's bad luck? Klein's spiritual intuition told him that it was the case, but it was the unluckiest hunter had appeared and lived. He turned his head and looked at the carriage and saw that the huge chunk of wall had collapsed from the hotel's second floor. Flames and smoke remained. At this point, the figure with disheveled blonde hair and messy clothes stood before him, muttered, "To think that there's such a daring person to trade arms in a hotel. New kinds of explosions, especially. He nearly caused me to die without even knowing why. My suitcase." Klein looked down at his suitcase and was carrying and suddenly felt how it was to be cautious. He turned around and helped Ricardo down the carriage. Anderson sensed something as he turned his head to say with a bitter smile, "The arms dealer these days are too unprofessional. Thankfully, it's daytime, and there aren't many people in the hotel. The owner sure is pitiful, having to suffer a certain loss. However, the gold they carry should be destroyed that easily. I should make up for the losses." "I think your bad luck is responsible for a large part of the accountability." Klein nodded and said to Ricardo, "It's him." Ricardo turned his head to Anderson, but his gaze was completely blocked by the black eye mask. He paused for a few seconds before smiling. "Give me a gold coin." "Oh?" Anderson took out a Lowen gold coin from inside his clothes, feeling suspect. Then he smiled in Gammon Sparrow. "Tradition from my hometown. We say sew a tiny pocket on the inside of our clothes to keep a few gold coins. I originally didn't believe in it, but I've just been too unlucky recently." As he spoke, he handed the gold coin to Ricardo. Ricardo received the gold coin, slowly closed his fingers before retracting his hand. He then laughed and said, "All right, your bad luck has been dispelled." "Ah." Anderson stood there in shock as he looked at Gammon Sparrow and those saying, "That's it? Did you get a fraud?" Klein was surprised as well, but he chose to believe Ricardo. After all, he was a fake counselor. Ricardo put away the gold coin and chuckled. "The bad luck you received this time wasn't child's play. If you don't believe me, you can head over to the casino to try your luck." "Makes sense." Anderson clapped and immediately got directions to the nearest casino from a passerby. After a while, he returned to the clean and decent jacket. He looked at Ricardo and instinctively opened his mouth. He was suddenly taken aback by the forcibly closed his mouth and thanked him with a grin. After the demigod had sent on the carriage, he leaned in towards Gammon Sparrow and wistfully said, "I was planning on saying that, although you're blind, you really are amazing when it comes to the domain of fate." Thankfully, I recalled in time that he's a demigod. "If you had really said that, you might have a chance of becoming a hunter who died immediately after having his bad luck removed." Klein didn't echo his sentiments as he said, "Now you can tell me the clues to the revolver." The creeping hunger had great limitations. He still wished for more convenient, offensive, mystical items. Anderson combed his hair back and chuckled. It's in Bayham. It's from a friend I used to know, a very powerful adventurer. As he got stuck in the unstable and dangerous life, he used his savings to buy a new few spice gardens and found a lady to marry. He then completely left his line of work we're in. He recently had a child, and his thoughts changed again. He began to wish that his child would be brought up in a better and safer environment, with better educational prospects. So he plans on moving to Backland. There, his best grammar schools and public schools there. He doesn't wish to rent a place in Backland, but he also doesn't plan on selling his gardens. That considerably earn him money. He happened to have an excess when it comes to the mystical items, so he plans on selling that revolver. Back then, I was in a rush to follow the treasure hunting expedition onto those waters, so I'm sure not to succeed in the end. However, few people can buy something worth nearly 10,000 pounds at once, so the transaction won't close that easily. All right, bring me to him, Klein replied smiley, or simply. At that moment on the Golden Dream, Donitz, yes! Donitz was horrified to realize a problem. His captain hadn't appeared in 3 days. Oh, that's not awesome. But guess what is awesome? The fact that we got more Donitz in the house, which means we're going to get the 3 of them. We're going to have all 3 together. So excited. We've been going for nearly 2.5 hours. We have 4 more chapters because we're on chapter 690. Kami, if I stop here, it's chapter 690 to what chapter that I would be stopping at? Okay, till 706. So I would be reading 16 chapters tomorrow. Thank you, Bullseye. Yes. Okay, so here's the thing. For that, so we're going to be doing 16 chapters tomorrow from chapter 690 to 706. I'm gonna start stream early. I'm gonna have to start stream early and lock in for a long stream. First off, I literally was just moving my body. All of you shut your fucking mouths, okay? I wasn't doing anything. Secondly, going to my point, we're gonna stop here. I'm gonna read from chapter 690 to 706, so 16 chapters. I honestly might need to start at 5 o'clock because it might be a really long fucking stream. Holy shit. Okay, I'm gonna start at 6 o'clock tomorrow and we're gonna go for a solid amount of time. We'll probably go from like 6 till 10. I'm gonna do 16 chapters tomorrow. We're gonna see how long it takes, but I'm gonna start at 6 o'clock. Yeah. Okay, well, bye everybody. Have a wonderful night, have a wonderful day, have a wonderful rest of your sleep. I was gonna do a few now, but we've been on here for 2.5 hours, and I actually do have to go. I didn't expect it to take this long. So we're just gonna have to do a long stream tomorrow because I got nothing planned tomorrow. And that's just how she goes. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye.